Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Umineko, Chapter 5. Beatrice appears to have gone hollow. No, that's not quite right. Well, she's not responsive. Completely unresponsive to just about everything, although she's been responsive to our offer of black tea. And as we progress the story, presumably she'll wake the fuck up or die already. Lambda Delta has taken over as GM for our game and is telling us quite the tale. We'll see just how it turns out, as we're basically going through the prologue of our story, starting off with how Kraus lost all his money betting on moon tourism in the 80s, but is at least going for some real estate towards the end of the 80s. So he's hopefully going to get his money back, and that's why Kinzo hasn't been seen, because Kinzo's dead and they don't want to reveal it because they're using his money to try and recover their losses. Yeah, let's just say Kraus isn't a great person. He spent all of his father's money and gambled the house away. Oh boy, Kraus. Kraus. Anyway, how is it?
That
rose aroma makes for a great black tea. Do you like it? No response from Beato. Of course, Beato didn't respond. What happened to you? Is this another strategy? Are you pretending to be in a slump so you can shock me later? If that's what you're after. The same trick won't work again, so give it a rest. I can't get fired up with you like this. That awkward lack of response type. Isn't it about time for you to start laughing loudly, saying, "Got you, dumbass," or something? Nah, she's got to play the long game, Battler. Any kind of joke stops being funny if you drag it out too much. Yeah, but if you only do it for 5 minutes, it doesn't work. Because he's thinking of it. Especially if it's a rehash. Laugh. Just like you're cackling over there as you drink with Aunt Natsuhi. Battler cares more for his enemies than he does getting home. Can you at least grin? Never again. This child will never laugh again. Those sudden words were exceedingly cruel. Hello, Bernkastel. How can you say that for sure? Don't try to take Beato's right to laugh away from her. Should I say it in red then? I shook my head furiously. Then, with an expression that didn't reveal her thoughts in the slightest, Bernkastel spoke while looking at Beato's face. And the word she used was completely incomprehensible to me. Congratulations. For what? Beato is like this as a result of your victory. What are you talking about? You said something interesting in the previous game. You said this would be torture where you both torment each other. It was right. That was right. It's torture for Beato as well. And you won the torture game. That's surprising considering she got tortured for what, like 5 minutes? After killing us hundreds of times? We won that game, you said? Still no seagulls? Indeed. That's why Beato's soul was killed. Why she became a doll-like corpse.
俺がベアトを殺したと。
Are you saying I did this to Beato?
勝敗はどちらか一方の勝とうとする意志がくじけた時に決まる。
The battle ends when one of you loses the will to try and
あ
win.
なたとベアとの戦いという意味においては、すでに前回決着がついていたのよ。
And as far as the battle between you and Beato goes, it was already concluded in the previous game.
あなたにとっては、
Well,
預かり知れぬうちに
it
だ
probably
ろうけれども。
happened without you noticing, though.
なら、俺の勝利なのにどうしてゲームが終わらない？
In that case, why isn't the game ended if I already
ど
won?
うしてこのゲームがまだ続いている？
Why is it still going?
その子の足首についてる足かせ。
The shackle attached to that girl's ankle.
ラムダが施したルールなのよ。
It's a rule Lambda made. Even if Beatrice tries to yield or gets discouraged or gives up, she isn't capable of stepping down from the game. That's the rule. Or maybe a curse.
かつてあなたが屈しそうになった時、
In the past,
私はあなたをサポートしたわ。
I supported you when it looked like you were going to give
あ
in,
なたには知覚できないだろうけど、
though you
あ
probably
なた
couldn't
にとっ
perceive it.
て有利な展開とヒントが与えられるように。
I assisted you by giving you
私
hints
は
and
あなた
making
に
things
助
go
言
your
を
way.
してだから今、あなたはここにこうしていられるのよ。
That's why you're able to be here now.
覚えてる？
Remember?
私に助けられたこと。
Remember how I saved you? Bernkastel stared at me. It's true I wasn't aware of it, but just maybe I was saved by her.
同じように、ラムダはベアトをサポートしてるわ。
In the same way, Lambda's supporting
そ
Beato.
して今度は、ベアトが屈しようとしている。
This time, Beato is on the verge of giving in,
だから今度はラムダが屈しないようにサポートしたわ。
and that's why Lambda's been giving her support this round to keep her from giving in.
それが足かせ。
That's what the shackle is.
投了を許さないことによって、ベアトをゲーム上救ったわ。
By refusing to let her resign, she's rescued Beato within the game. Luckily for her, Beato can just escape into her fantasy world or whatever. Or have her soul evacuate her body and go elsewhere, whereas we're kind of trapped in this plane.
何をどう救ったってんだ？
Rescued her from what?
本来ゲームは2つの終わり方があった。
Normally, there's only two ways for this game to end.
どちらかが負けを認めて投了するか、
One side will accept defeat and
どち
resign,
らかがチェックメイトでゲームに勝つか。
or one side wins with checkmate.
ベアトはその前者に抵触しかけた。
Beato was about to collide with the first way,
だからラムダはそれを
I see.
潰し、敗北をギリギリのところで回避したの。
and that's why Lambda crushed the chance and managed to just barely avoid losing.
ゲーム上は立派なサポートだわ。
By the game's rules, that's an impressive bit of support. So the only way this game ends now is if I win. At the very least, until I do win, a witch called Lambda Delta can probably try to buy time for Beato to make a comeback. Or you can make Lambda Delta give up by proposing really stupid things too, right? That'll just prolong Beato's suffering even more. Neither of us wants that. Both Beato and I fought with all we had trying to win. The game repeated several times because we were both giving it everything we could muster. Then that one time, we confronted each other head on with all our strength. And Beato acknowledged defeat. She said she wanted me to end this game and entrusted everything to me. But Bernkastel's words are the truth. She said it's my fault Beato's become a living corpse. That's true, but it's something both of us wanted.
俺たちの勝負はもう
Our match has already been resolved.
なのにゲームは終わらな
And
い。
even so, the game won't end.
だから
The
ベ
game's
ア
like
ト
a
は俺に
zombie.
託したんだ。
That's why Beato put her
早
trust
く
in
勝
me.
ってこのゲームを終わらせろってな。
She told me to win quickly and end the game. Now that the game's been resolved, letting it continue further means endless torture for Beato. Nothing more than a nightmare. I'm gonna give her a perfect checkmate, end this game in the truest sense, and let her rest in peace. For that reason, I'll keep fighting, but by continuing the game, Beato's eternal torture will continue. It felt as though I could only let her sleep peacefully by slowly strangling her to death.
もう俺には真実なんてどうでもいい気が
I'm
してきた。
starting to feel like truth doesn't matter
ベアト
anymore.
の気が済んだなら。
As long as
もうゲー
Beato's
ムなんて
satisfied.
どうでもいいだろ
Who cares what happens in the game? battler. As long as I make Beato happy, who cares who wins in the game? My family and everyone who Beato may or may not have murdered, fuck them. I need Beato to be happy. Like, dude, really? Really?
ベアトは投了した。
Beato
俺
resigned.
は魔女幻想の真実など捨ておいて、家族と家に帰る。
I'll abandon the truth of the illusion of the witch and return home with my family.
それでいいじゃねえか。
Wrong with that? If only Lambda Delta hadn't placed the curse of that shackle on her, this battle would be over already. That's why I found it detestable. This game, which I can't finish without tormenting Beato more, is detestable.
何
What's
真
it?
実に近づいたらベアトが苦しそうな表情を見せるようになったんで急に手心を加えたくなったの
Yeah, Beato looks like she's in pain every time you get closer to the truth, so you're gonna go easy on
なら
her?
好きなだけ手加減するといい
Then go easy on her as much
あ
as
る
you
いは
can.
ベアトに勝ちを譲ればいい
Why not just let Beato win while you're at
そ
it?
して妹に孤独で悲惨な未来を無
Then
限
your
に
little
強い
sister
続ければいい
You can have a lonely, tragic future forced on her endlessly.
そういうわけじゃね
It's not how it is. I mean, that is a good strategy, right? Beato plays catatonic, sends her soul out from her body, does whatever she wants, while hanging around with Ronove and her 7 sisters of Purgatory and the Shiestra sisters. Meanwhile, Battler agonizes over causing someone's apparent suffering, weakening his resolve so it's easier to beat him in the long game. This is actually a pretty good strategy for Beato. I have to return for NJ's sake as well. I know this isn't the time to start feeling compassion for Beato.
ならきっちり殺しなさい
In that case, make sure you kill her. Finish the
そ
job.
の魔女を
Kill this witch without fail. I mean, if you drag it out, you're just prolonging her suffering, right? She inevitably dies, and you're just slowly strangling her. Like, that's not cool. Just get to the shooting bit. Just get to the quick shot. End it real quick. Even though Beato was right there, Bernkastel spoke without holding back. Also, this could be a long con. You gotta watch out for it. Your goal is to kill that woman.
殺すことあなたは前回のゲームでベアトに壊れて口にしたわ
In the last game, you said it at Beato's request.
お前を殺すって
You said I'll kill you.
ああ、そうかも
It may be true. But you'd rather prolong their suffering?
だがそれはお前にとやかく言われることじゃねえな
But that doesn't mean you get to complain about it.
知ってる
Did you know?
爪を剥ぐときはね一気に剥いでくれた方がマシなのよ
On a completely unrelated note, did you know that when you tear one of your fingernails out, it's better to do it in
あ
one
なた
go?
みたいに優しくおっかなびっくりと
Pulling it out like you
ぐ
do.
りぐりもたもたと剥がれる方がよっぽど痛い
It timidly, twisting, slow. It hurts much, much
あ
more.
なたのしてることの方がよっぽど拷問だと思うけど
What you're doing sounds much more like torture to me.
慈悲があるなら一気に殺しなさい
If you have any compassion, kill her all at
それが
once.
殺すということよ
That's how killing works.
余計なお世話だ
That's none of your
俺が
business.
こいつにどう引導を渡すかは俺が
I'm
決
the
め
one who
る
gets
こと
to
だ
decide how to perform her last rites.
お
Why?
前もあのラムダデルタという魔女も関係ない
You and that Lambda Delta witch have nothing to do with
俺
this.
が
Oh, kill
殺
her.
す他の誰にも
I won't let anyone else do it. Well, you'd better get on it then.
その意志に変わりがないならいいわ
As long as you don't lose that willpower.
私はあなたにかけてるのだ
I
から
am betting on you.
決して忘れないことよ
Okay. Make sure you don't
この
forget.
ゲームに決着をつけない限りあなたが解放されることは決してない
Unless this game is resolved, you will never be
あ
released.
なたにだってこのゲームを放
And you
棄す
won't
るこ
be
とは
allowed to
許されない
abandon
の
this
だ
game
から
either.
わか
I
った
get
な
it. You get it? Do you really?
ラムダの狙いは分かってる
I know what Lambda's after.
ベアトと同じようにあなたにも繊維喪失させて
He wants to make you lose your will to fight just like
二
Beato.
人とも生き人形にしてこの世界を永遠に安定させることよ
Make you a pair of living dolls to keep this world in perpetual
そんなの
equilibrium.
嫌でし
You don't want that, do
ょ
you?
私も困るわ
I wouldn't like it either.
お前の都合など知ったことか
Why should I give a damn about what you want? No reason.
だが俺はゲームを捨てない
Still, I won't throw this game away. A battler doll. I wonder if you can buy
ベア
those
トと
over
の
in
戦い
Japan.
の責任を 放
I
棄
won't
しない
abandon my responsibility to fight against Beato.
目的が同じで嬉しいわ。
I'm glad our goals are the same then.
そしてそれは躊躇なくその子を殺せるということ
So
よ
we'll be able to kill this child without any hesitation, right?
そうだ
That's right. I have no way of knowing whether those words eased her pain or hurt her, but I can tell by the dull tingling in my chest that I surely believe I've hurt her. I have no way of knowing what the silent Beato feels. If I think I've hurt her, does that mean she's actually been hurt? If I didn't think I'd hurt her, would that mean no one's gotten hurt because of me? Maybe in 20 years we can have artificial human androids like anime characters? That
で
seems ambitious.
あそこで夏日とお茶を飲んでるベアト
What
だ
about
け
that
ど
Beato who's drinking tea over there with Natsuhi?
大丈夫よね。
You can handle that, right?
ああ大丈夫だ
Yeah, no problem. I feel like technological ambitions are being revealed to be far from realized in this decade. Lots of promise of lots of exciting things, and then it's always just like super disappointing, the reality. Like lots of people pushing for like hyperloops and shit. And what other bullshit, like solar roads and all sorts of crazy leaps in tech, and you're like, wow, that's crazy. And then you do like 5 minutes of research and you realize that they're like basically impossible. And that they would like realistically never get done. But people like 10 years on are still spending shit tons of money on that, and you're just like, but why? Like even basic things, even things that we already know we can do, people aren't doing, and you want to do like some ultra high-tech shit? I feel like this is quite the depressing decade in terms of tech. But we'll see. After all, there's plenty of time for the decade to turn itself around. Plenty of time for something exciting like a new trip to the moon. Actually, that wouldn't be exciting. That was the 60s. A manned mission to Mars. Okay. I don't know if that's viable, but it would be nice to see a leap like that or something. Maybe not manned mission to Mars. Maybe a colony. I don't know if it would be worth it to make a colony on Mars with them in, though. Be like half the reason it would be done is just for the sake of saying you did it, but at the very least it would be cool. Yeah, I don't know if it's feasible though. Yeah, whenever people say stuff about tech, I'm like consistently being like slightly disappointed knowing how things are turning out.
金蔵の時と同じよ。
Asteroid mining first or something? Probably. Problem is, major asteroids are, what, past Mars? Yeah, between Mars and Jupiter, right? That's even further. It's the same as it was with Kinzo.
ベアトリーチェなんて存在しない。
Beatrice doesn't exist.
あれは魔女の力を借りて危機を乗り越える妙案を思いついたと信じる夏日が生み出した偽りの魔女幻想。
This is a fake illusion of a witch that Natsuhi created because she believes she was borrowing a witch's power when she thought of a brilliant plan to overcome hardship. How is her plan brilliant? Just pretend he's not dead for a few years? Until you make money? It only looks like they're drinking together.
ゲームマスターであり、物語の語り手であるラムダデルタがそう解釈しているからなだけよ。
It looks that way because Lambda Delta, the game master and one telling the story, interpreted it that way.
夏日に対し一片の愛も持たずに凝視できたなら、そんな幻想が見えたりはしない。
If you could stare at this scene without a fragment of love for Natsuhi, you wouldn't see an illusion
だ
like
から
that.
私の目には夏日が一人ぼっちで黙々と紅茶を飲んでるようにしか見
Why,
え
with
な
my
い。
eyes, all I see is Natsuhi alone, drinking her tea in silence. Without love, it cannot be seen. And clearly, Bernkastel doesn't love Natsuhi. Because love is lacking, it cannot be seen.
あれは夏日が見せている妄想。
You're looking at a daydream Natsuhi's
あ
showing
そ
us.
こにベアトリーチェなど存在しない。
Beatrice doesn't exist there. Beato mumbled softly. It was a small voice that made it sound like she was in pain. The thorn of Bernkastel's truth had stabbed into her chest. It's true.
ああ、そうだろうな。
Yeah, it's
お
probably
前の
true.
推理は正しいと思うぜ。
I think your theory's right.
それをベアトの前で口にするな。
Don't say that in front of Beato, though.
どこで口にしたって同じよ。
It doesn't matter where I
ここ
say
は
it.
ベアトの世界なんだから。
This is Beato's world we're in.
あとは、こいつを擁護するわけじゃねえが。
It's not like I'm protecting Beato. I'm just preventing people from saying things that might hurt her feelings.
夏日おばさんが、本当に未知の人物 X、ベアトリーチェと名乗る人物と、こうしてお茶を飲んでる可能性だってあ
It's
るん
still
だぜ。
possible Aunt Natsuhi really is drinking tea with some unknown person X who calls themselves Beatrice.
この光景は1年前のものだろうが。
This scene takes place a year
こ
before
の日
everything.
の島の人数が赤き真実で示されてるわけじゃない。
The number of people on the island this day has never been shown with red truth. Man, the amount of copium battlers endlessly ingesting to get some of the dumbest conclusions, including protecting his enemy from feeling bad or ever being defeated, is getting kind of annoying.
そうね。この日の六軒島の人数については、ラムダも赤では語ってないわ。
Sure. Even Lambda hasn't said anything in red about the number of people on Rockinjima today.
なら、
In that
夏
case,
日おばさんが本当にベアトリーチェと名乗る女とお茶を飲んだと主張することもで
in
きる
that
んだ。
case, it's possible for Aunt Natsuhi to claim she really did drink tea with a woman calling herself Beatrice.
俺にお前の説を否定できないように。お前だって俺の説を否定できないんだ。
Just like I can't deny your theory, you can't deny mine.
だから、そこにいるベアトが幻想だと断じることもできないぜ。
It means you can't say for sure whether the Beato there is an illusion or not. That is true, Battler. But I think making an incredibly far-fetched statement instead of something sensible like the most straightforward thing is most often the truth is probably a bit of a stretch.
ああ、猫箱理論。
We're going back to this cat box theory.
それ、ベアトには通用したかもしれないけど。
It might have
私には
worked on
通じない
Beato,
わ
but it doesn't work on me.
どうして？
Why not?
だって、夏日はそこで、一人ぼっちで紅茶を飲んでるんだもの。
After all, Natsuhi is drinking tea all by herself right there. Ooh, the red text from Bernkastel. Yeah, Battler's statement is like the equivalent of saying, what if witches are real all the time except when we're paying attention? Yeah. There was a violent sound of glass breaking. And Beato, who laughed happily and cracked jokes about Natsuhi's newlywed years, was erased. A lonely wind blew, and the one person who remained on the bench drinking tea with a tired expression was Aunt Natsuhi, all by herself. It doesn't work on a witch, Battler. You can't copium things that clearly aren't true, especially if the witch is opposed to your viewpoint and is like, dude, we're arguing for truth, so I'm just gonna fuck you up. I'm just gonna fuck you up. Like, I don't know why. She's like, this is obviously what's happening. And he's like, it could be any number of things. And she's like, bro, the only reason I'm not red truthing everything is because you're supposed to be fighting this shit yourself. And he's like, it could be anything. And she's like, it's fucking not. It's this. And he's like, oh shit. Get wrecked, Battler. And shut the fuck up. Stop throwing this game for Beatrice. You're killing your whole family for this random woman who murdered them all? It seems so dumb. Beato groaned. I could see that clearly she was in anguish. Oh no, we're hurting Beatrice's feelings. Gods. Another illusion of the witch had been smashed, drawing Beato towards death. In short, this is what the battle to let Beato rest in peace is all about. A second ago, Bernkastel likened our fight to the torture of tearing fingernails out, and if I have to tear them out anyway, then my last bit of compassion towards Beato should be to minimize the pain. In other words, even if I want to minimize it, I still have to cause it. I have to accept that look of anguish on her face. Dude, this is like the dumbest con she's pulling. She's like, oh, It's a dumb con because Battler actually won't immediately accept it. It's one thing to be like, I know I have to do this, but it's hard to because I can see it on her face. But Battler's not having that struggle. He's having the struggle of actually deciding to continue with it because he thinks it might hurt her. And you're like, dude, that's not the struggle you should be having. The struggle should be... It feels like the struggle is him acknowledging he has to actually prove the witch isn't real, and it's like we've been here for how long? How long have we been here, Battler? How many times have we had this stupid decision where you're just like, I don't know if I want to proceed. I don't know if I can continue. I don't know if I want to. And it's like, Jesus, dude. You think by 5 we would have decided whether or not we wanted to kill Beatrice instead of having this same discussion for like the 3rd time about whether or not we want to win the game. Goodness, man. Make up your mind. I have to accept that look of anguish on her face. Oh no, I have to beat someone at a game. At the same time, I realized what a merciless thing the Red Truth was. Right now in this rose garden, there's no one except Aunt Natsuhi. In other words, there are no observers except for Natsuhi. So if that lone observer were to say that she had some tea with Beato, no one would be able to refute it. If there's someone no one can deny, doesn't that mean it's the truth? Natsuhi is enjoying the roses and drinking tea together with Beato. How can anyone have the right to mercilessly trample that pleasant moment? That's right, if I kill someone and there's no witnesses, no one should have the right to trample my moment. So if I go to your house and murder you, and no one sees me do it, and I claim that I didn't kill you, and that you just randomly stabbed yourself 50 times with a knife while I was in the other room, the police shouldn't question me, they should just accept it. If I tell them that, they should just shut the fuck up and go away, right? Right, Battler? No one should break your moment if no one's around to witness it. They should just claim anything you do on your own as truth. Red Truth is like a blade, and...
魔女と戦う上で時に推理を切られ時に反撃の武器となる
Still going through this.
刃物だ
In a battle with a witch, it's a blade that sometimes tears your theories apart, but sometimes becomes a weapon you can fight back with.
知ってるわよ。
I know.
それが何？
So?
みだりに使うな
Don't use it without reason. Who is it cutting? It's certainly not cutting against... It's not, certainly not hurting us. If anything, it's proving that your opponent's point is weaker.
刃物は使うべき時に使えば
A blade's a tool you use when you're supposed to.
悪意を持って使えば狂気でしかない
It's a weapon if you use it out of malice. That is not how weapons work, Battler. It is a weapon if you use it at any time. It is a weapon, period. It is a tool when it is not used to it is a tool when it is used to perform a task that does not involve using it as a weapon, i.e., you can use an axe to chop wood. It is technically a weapon, but it is being used as a tool. It is a tool. A wood-cutting axe is a tool until you wield it against someone, then it becomes a weapon. If you wield it with intent to cause harm to someone, anything becomes a weapon. It has nothing to do with malice or malefic intent. Does it matter if you're using it to protect yourself or not? It matters if you're intending to use it against something. If you intend to use it as a weapon, it's a weapon. Otherwise, it's a tool. Malice has nothing to do with it. True enough, Aunt Natsuhi wasn't really drinking tea with a witch. However, saying that with the Red Truth probably has nothing to do with our game. Our game is the tale of October 1986, the 2 days the crime gives us. Of the crime give us more than enough time to injure each other, with our red and blue blades glistening. Do you not understand that Lambda Delta could reasonably be setting you up to fail by presenting you with illusions of things that didn't happen from the past, so that the current state, your opinion about the current state will be modified because of the things she's shown you? Are you that stupid, Battler? Like, there's a reason Lambda is showing you things from the past, and it's not to make it easier for you to find the truth. It's to mislead you about the present, and you need to understand that. I feel like that's the most straightforward. Like, your opponent is whoever sits across the game board for you, whether it be Lambda, Delta, or Beatrice. Beatrice is just the official player. You need to realize that if Lambda Delta is operating as Game Master, she is intentionally trying to screw you over. Or mislead you in some way to cause you to believe that there are witches. Or she's gonna her goal is stalemate, right? So she has to play as the role of your opponent. You can't just be like, oh, well, this doesn't matter because it's set differently. Like, the piece should matter. The time, the scene, this should matter. But Battler is 5 chapters in, and Battler is still non-committal to completing this game. I wonder how many more chapters left to go before Battler decides he actually wants to win a simple game. This guy must be like the most frustrating person to play against. He's like, it's like you're playing a game against him, you're up 1 point, and he's like, I can't play, go ahead, I'm just gonna skip my turn until you catch up, and you're like, fuck off, dude. It's one thing if you're teaching someone to play the game, it's entirely another to go like easy on them, or take like slightly suboptimal moves. It's entirely another to be like, I'm in a serious life or death competition death game with you. Anyway, I feel bad for my opponent, so I'm just gonna like chill out and do whatever and not try to win. Because I feel bad for my opponent. Despite my own life and the lives of my family hang in the balance. Like, Beato gets nothing if she wins. Do you not understand that, Battler? Like the lives of everyone you know are on the line. You're just like, man, I don't want to kill this person who is saying, if you don't do this, they all die. Like, come on, man. How are we 5 chapters in and he's still waffling about this shit? 5 freaking chapters in. It feels like we've retread this ground like 6 times, and it would be, or 5 times, and it would be okay if it was the main story, but it's the meta story that the character has been through this whole time. Good lord. The writer needs to cut this story arc out. We've done this enough. We don't need to do this arc, every single arc, with every single chapter. We don't need to do this arc with Meta Battler, okay? Meta Battler has been through all those arcs. He's done this like 5 times now. Actually, I think it's been 4, but still. He's done this like 4 times now. We don't need to go through this arc again. They're just retreading the same ground with slightly different characters. Like, last time we had NJ. This time, we have Bernkastel and Lambda Delta. What are we gonna have in Chapter 6? A new person, just for the sole purpose of our character being depressed and trying to decide if they want to finish this stupid fucking game? Come on, man. Make up your goddamn mind. We didn't even last 10 minutes. We didn't even last half a chapter before we decided we didn't want to play the game anymore. Like NJ dies at the end of Chapter 4. We go to the tea room. And then we go here, and Battler's already done with playing the game. He's like, well, we had fun in the tea room post Chapter 4, and now I've had my fun. I'll just, like, chill out and waffle about finishing the game. Like, dude, we've done this arc. Please, can we write a new arc can we write a new story arc? NJ's arc was at least entertaining. NJ's retread of it was at least entertaining, because NJ had her own independent stuff to go through. And then she went up and slapped Battler for giving up and believing he couldn't possibly exist. This feels so familiar. This isn't about the illusion of the witch, it's about Aunt Natsuhi's privacy. I'm sorry, Battler. People's lives are on the line. Aunt Natsuhi's privacy is irrelevant. Like, I'm sure Aunt Natsuhi would say the same thing. It's like, is it more important if I live or if someone is aware that I wasn't imagining having a conversation, that I was imagining having a conversation with a fictitious person at this point in time? Like, I don't know about you, but if I was daydreaming while drinking coffee about, let's see, having a conversation with an imaginary witch, and someone's like, all right, you got 2 choices, Ethereal. Either we shoot you or we tell, Or we tell someone that you were like fantasizing of having a conversation with someone. Like, I'd be like, fuck it, I'd rather not die, and like, who gives a shit? Like, okay, sure. Go for it. I'd rather not be dead. Especially if it will resurrect you. Like, come on.
それを暴く権利なんて
How could anyone have a right to expose that? People do it all the time. It's called a criminal investigation.
この場に魔女が実在して、夏日とお茶を飲んだと認めてほしいの。
You want to acknowledge a witch actually existed here and drank tea with
あな
Natsuki?
た、魔女を否定す
Or
る
is she
んじゃ
trying
な
to
かった
deny the existence of witches?
1986
Right. If we're talking about our
10
game,
月4日から5
the
日の
2-day period from
2日間
October
の
4th
ゲー
to
ムについ
5th
て
in
だ
1986.
がそのゲーム版の外についてまで俺は魔女の存在を問うつもりはねえぜ
I have no desire to question whether or not witches exist outside the game board.
そもそも悪魔の証明により魔女の否定は不可能だ
In the first place, the Devil's Proof argument makes it impossible to deny the existence of
そ
witches.
してこのゲームのルールに従い赤でそれを語るのもステイルメイトで禁じ手だ
And according to the rules of this game, saying something like what you did in red is a forbidden move that leads to a stalemate.
赤き真実でさえ魔女の存在を否定はできねえんだぜ
You can't deny the existence of witches, or even, not even with the red truth.
確かに、
Rude.
まさかあなたに魔女の存在を語られるとはね。
I never thought I'd hear you talk so glibly about witches
さすが
existing.
ラムだ。
Not bad, Lambda.
バトラーを人間犯人説と魔女がいてもいいという気持ちのうまいこと中間に引っ張り出してきたわ。
Done a good job getting Battler stuck between his human culprit theory and the idea that witches existing wouldn't be so bad.
人間の心を操るのに本当に長けている。
She really excels at controlling human hearts.
私ももっとあなたを応援しないとまずいわね。
Looks like I'd better start helping you out even more.
お前らなど知ったことじゃない
I couldn't care less about you
消え
two.
ろこれ
Disappear.
は俺とベアとのゲームだ
This game's between Beato
お
and me.
前たちに私はしない
We're keeping this game to ourselves.
嫌よ。
No way.
何
What?
だって
After all,
私もこのゲーム楽しんでるんだもの。
I'm enjoying this game too. Oof. I like Bernkastel's laughing face. It's better than Lambda Delta's and less creepy than Beato's. Bernkastel disappeared, leaving only that unpleasant laugh behind. After that, all that remained was Natsuhi sipping tea alone. Beato, her hand still on the teacup as she stared blankly at the surface of the liquid, and me.
ベルンカステルにラムダ
Bernkastel and Lambda
ワル
Delta.
ギリアはお前の友人と言ってたが
Virgilia called them your friends, but
お前友人は選ぶべきだったな
you should really choose your friends more carefully.
むしろ性悪なお前にはお似合いなのか
Ah, wait. Maybe they actually make a good match with an ill-natured person like you. Beato didn't answer. Battler took Beato's hand, made her hold the cup again, and brought it to her lips. Beato made a quiet sound in her throat and drank another gulp. Then Natsuhi's lonely tea time ended. The truth, which was Natsuhi's alone and observed by no one else, had been defiled. In Natsuhi's world, surely that tea party, which had been peaceful despite her annoyance at Beato for making fun of her too much, came to an end and the two of them parted ways. However, in Natsuhi's exposed truth, she was alone. Natsuhi tottered away on the bench, only a single person's cup remained. Alright, Battler. We gonna do things Battler's way? Just waffle about witches existing? Back and forth? For another 4 chapters at this point. After dashing to her bedroom, Jessica answered the phone call that had been transferred there.
ああ、もしもし
Hello,
お
hello.
待たせ
Sorry to keep you waiting.
バートラ
Battler!
ー6年も音沙汰なしとはどういうつもりだ
What you think you're doing not contacting us for 6 years?
久しぶりだな。
How's it going?
お、
Oh,
そ
really?
うなのか？知るかよそんなの。
How the hell do I know?
うぜえぜ。
Shut up.
じゃあ今年の親族会議はちゃんと来るわけだろ？
That means you've been coming to this year's family conference, right?
6
Right?
年ぶりだな。
It's been 6 whole years. I mean, come on. Five businessmen in expensive suits were visiting the parlor, giving Kraus and Natsuhi a progress report on their business. Spread out on the table were the blueprints and designs for a building as well as documents related to expenditures and the like. Packed. So packed that even a teacup would have gotten in the way. Officially, they're here to give Kraus a progress report, but in actuality, Kraus called them all the way over to Rockinjima so Natsuhi could hear from them directly. This was because Natsuhi needed to hear someone other than her husband explain what condition their business was in. In other words, even though another family conference without Kinzo was approaching, their business had not yet earned them any money. After telling the guests to wait for a short while, Kraus took Natsuhi out into the hall and once again summarized the situation.
つまり、我々の想像をはるかに超えて、事業は素晴らしくうまくいっていると彼らは言っている。
In short, they say work is proceeding better than we
ここで
imagined.
私と知事との私的なコネクションが大きく効いてきた。
And this is where my personal connection to the governor really starts to pay off. Kraus, you were supposed to be making money over a year ago.
もはや絶対に釣り落とすことはない。
By now, it's absolutely impossible for this catch to get away from us.
それどころか、例の委任状だけでなく、これまでの損失さえも一気に取り戻すことが可能なくらいの
For the contrary,
大きな話になりつ
it's
つある
growing
の
so
だ。
big that in one go we'll be able to regain not just the power of attorney, but everything we've lost up to this point as well. Kraus spoke passionately, made it seem all the more suspicious to Natsuhi. But this time at least she had to admit everything did seem to be going well. Certainly this business Kraus boasted of had expanded in scope over the last year, and was promising an even greater payoff than had been anticipated initially. Whether it would prove to be a winner or not, investors had gathered around it and were rapidly gaining funds. This must be what they mean when they say money summons money. It was probably the greatest success of Kraus's life so far, or it probably would be his greatest success yet. That point was where Natsuhi's misgivings lay. True, it was certain, as Kraus said, they wouldn't lose this catch now. However, the fish on the line had gotten so big.
必ず釣り上げられる魚だ。
We'll definitely be able to reel this fish in. Kraus, we need our money at some point.
何も焦る必要はないの
There's
だ
no
よ。
need to rush.
親父が生きていたなら、ぜひ見せて誇りたいほどの大成功なのだ。
It's such a success. I wish I could show it to father if he were still alive.
ええ、それは分かっています。ですがあなたは昨年、私に約束したはずです。
I believe you made me a promise last year. Unfortunately for Gross, phrases like the market can stay irrational longer than you can say solvent is the saying for a reason. Very true, very true. Never expect the market to be rational. And never expect to be able to outlast the irrationality of the market. That said, he's saying they basically got a tailwind and that things are going well for them and they're actually doing something rather than just gambling on the market. So if the business works, it might work out. Like, it's possible things work out for them. The thing is, they should just sell at some point. Lambda Delta AO, is she a shithead or good? She's kind of evil? She's kind of evil? And a bit of a bitch, but she's not the worst. Not so far, at any rate. I mean, she's hinting that she's pretty awful, but she hasn't actually done anything that's genuinely terrible. Her goal is kind of like general misery for everyone, though, so, you know, she's not exactly a great person. Because her goal is to make everyone sit and play this game on loop forever, and then she fucks off and leaves once everyone's stuck in this stagnant, looping world. Not a great person. She hasn't disappointed yet. You said you were sure you could manage something within a year. I mean, to be fair, she hasn't been completely unreasonable yet. Let's see if she can talk again. A pained look rose to Kraus's face. Yeah, You said you only needed a year, and here we are, a year and a half later. They certainly had hooked a fat fish that guaranteed great success. However, it would require an appropriate amount of time to reel it in. Natsuhi pressed Kraus, asking if there was any way for them to make money before this year's family conference, but Kraus kept saying he needed just one more year. A year is a long time, Kraus. Kraus planned to use the unprecedented success to catapult them into further challenges in the future. Because of this, he didn't want to do anything that would raise suspicions by making it seem like they're rushing to get money. Certainly, fortune tends to turn against people who take it for granted even in the slightest. Anxious beggars never prosper. On many occasions before now, Kraus had gotten cold feet and sold off businesses that surely would have brought in a profit had he just waited. Yes, Kraus, but there's a difference between pulling out because you need to pull out because you need the money, and pulling out because you're a spineless bitch. He had, in fact, given away his winning picks. Well, Kraus, not everyone has $1 bajillion and can just invest in anything that's successful. What did Natsuhi also knew this? She knew that guts were the thing her husband lacked the most. Oh my goodness. Natsuhi's so rude. Diamond hand always. Yeah. If you make a decision, you gotta stick by it. Right? Unless you have a specific plan and a reasoning for like what you'd be doing. Like if you want to bail early, you bail early because your plan was to bail early at a certain threshold, not because you're like, whoa, well, the things look bad for 5 minutes. Time to go. Yeah, Natsuhi just called him. Yeah, his own wife is just like, I know he's spineless. I know he's lacking guts. Like, remember, Natsuhi is his wife. Oh, it's extra painful. That's what she didn't say it aloud. She's thinking it. That's why she's unable to refuse when Kraus said he wanted to prudently wait one more year. How wonderful to hear that things are going well. Seems I'll just have to sit around here as a ghost for a little longer. You don't look too disappointed. Hey, if he was involved in the pumping and dumping, that would actually be okay, because I mean, it's illegal to pump and dump, but the person who's boosting the stocks and pulling out all their investment at the peak is making an absolute fucking killing. That's why people do it so often, especially with cryptocurrencies. Is you get a hold of the crypto and it's at like 5 cents, or when it's at like a quarter of a penny, convince everyone to invest in it, it goes up to 5 cents, you dump all of your shares, making like a massive fucking profit, and then everyone else gets stuck holding the bag when it's worth nothing. Or when it's worth like back down to a quarter of a cent because people realized it was just a pump and dump scheme and there's no actual value. It would have been good for him to invest. Like, if the problem with pump and dumps is you have to assume that you're never in at the bottom, you're in at the top. That's the problem with those schemes. Is unless you're actually like the first person invested in it, you're always in at the top. Always assume you're in at the top, which means you're the one who's going to be stuck holding a bag. You don't look too disappointed. You're fated to be chewed to bits by demons the minute you leave this world. My apologies, Father. For one more year, you may not be granted peace. It's fine. Fear not, Natsuhi. I am no longer the Ashiramiya family head. The ghost of the study should obediently follow the current head's command. I'm taking a look at Kraus's charts and they aren't bad at all. Even from your perspective, Father? You mean your own perspective, Natsuhi? They're pretty good even from my perspective.
誰もが勝利を確信し、相当の魔力が集中している。
Everyone's confident in victory, gathering together a significant quantity of magical
その
power.
結果、さらに勝利が熱くなり、ますますに人と魔力を集め、黄金を生み出そうとしている。
As a result, that victory is growing even deeper, involving more and more people in magic, beginning to create
錬金
gold.
術の王道を見事に体現している
A
ぞ。
perfect embodiment of classic alchemy.
おお、黄金の魔女の太鼓判までつくなら、これは心強い。
If you've earned even the Golden Witch's approval, that's very reassuring.
喜べ夏日。
Rejoice,
このクラ
Natsuhi!
ウスの事業は必ずや後ろ宮家の危機を救うだ
This
ろう。
business of Krause's will save the Ushiromiya family from its crisis without fail.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much. I like how she's being thanked by her imagination.
そしてそのため
If
に
you'd
また
once again.
うん、
Indeed.
もう一度、親族会議を乗り越えねばならんな。
We'll have to overcome one more family conference, won't we?
ええ、
Yes.
昨年はうまくやり過ごせたつもりですが、不審に思う親族も現れるでしょう。
I think things went well last year, but I imagine some of the relatives will find it
今
suspicious.
年は正念場になると思います。
I think this year's conference will be a critical time.
去年の親族会議の
During last year's family
ひょっと
conference.
したらもう一度同じことになるかもしれぬと予見したそ
You
な
were
た。
correct to predict that the same thing might have to happen again.
最悪のケースを想定するのは、魔女ならずとも世渡りの基本だ。
Even for those who aren't witches, preparing for the worst case scenario is one of the basics for getting on in this
そ
world.
れで、今年はどうする？
So what will you do this year?
去年同様、会議当日はお父様の秘密を知る使用人を集中的に配置します。
So like last year, I will see to it a high concentration of the servants who know Father's secret are there on the day of the conference.
お父様の不在を気取る親族もすでにいるかもしれません。
Some of the relatives may have already noticed that Father
不
isn't
用意な
around.
演出はむしろ馬脚を表す危険性もあり
A
ます。
careless show might actually put us in more danger of exposure.
うん。
Indeed. Natsuhi is masterminding this.
過
I
ぎ
see.
たるは及ばざるがごとしとも言
It is said, too much is as bad as too
う。
little.
なればど
Then
う
what
す
will you
る？
do?
今年は昨年とは逆に最後まで書斎をお出にならないという筋書きでいこうと思います。
Unlike last year, I think we'll go with a plan that has you staying inside your study until the end.
それがよかろうな。
That would be suitable.
籠城は単純にして最後の切り札だ。
Barricades are straightforward and simple, a final trump card.
どれほど屋敷が毒素に満ちようとも、
No matter how strongly the toxin
こ
fills
の
this
部屋を
mansion,
密室結界に閉ざす限り、金蔵の存在を否定することはできぬ。
as long as the closed room barrier exists or remains around this room, it will be impossible to deny Kinzo's
それ
existence.
はわらわも保証する。
I guarantee it myself. And that's why it's a strong magic barrier.
籠
Nazi
城
doesn't
す
deserve to
れ
deal
ば
with his
囲ま
BS.
れる
Oh,
は
for
必
sure.
至。
She's got to deal with Krause's bullshit, and it's causing her and no end of trouble. However, when forming a barricade, it's inevitable you will be surrounded.
承知しています。
I know.
それでも何卒
Even so,
もう一度だけ
I
お
beg
父様
both
と
of
ベ
you,
アトリーチェの力をお貸しください。
lend us your power one more time.
私は新しき当主の命令に
Cannot
は
disobey the orders of the new head.
そして幽
Furthermore,
霊もまた聖者の命令には逆
a
らえん
ghost
し
cannot disobey the orders of the living.
こ
Alright?
の部屋から出るなというのであればそれに従おう。
You tell me not to leave this room, I will obey.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much.
わらわは嫌だぞ。
Not satisfied.
力を貸せと願われても、願いごときでは聞いてやれぬ。
You want me to lend you my power? I won't listen to a mere request.
ええ。
Yeah.
あなたは古文錬金術師
You're the family alchemist.
ですから貸せと願いません。
I won't ask you to
貸し
help.
なさいと命じます。
I
あ
order
な
you
た
to
の
help.
魔法だけが頼りです。
Your magic is the one thing we can rely
そ
on.
の力でもう一度だけお父様の幻想を
Use that power. Create an illusion of Father just one more time.
ならばよし。
Very well.
心得たぞ。
I hear and obey.
そなたの貫禄。
I
なか
find your
なかに
confidence
心地よし。
Quite pleasing. From the shadows of the study, Battler watched the exchange between these three.
なるほどな。
I
そして
see.
今年の親族会議を迎えるわけだ。
So we've made it to this year's family
じい様は
conference.
不機嫌だからと書斎に閉じこもり、誰の前にも姿を現さない。
We set up the initial state. Grandfather's in a bad mood, so he shut himself in his study and didn't appear in front of anyone, even though he's already dead. Natsuhi spoke boldly about how she would somehow overcome this year's crisis and protect the family's honor until the end, while Kinzo praised her, saying her plan looked promising. Beato also praised her, saying Natsuhi's dignified confidence was even more well-suited for headship than Krause's. However, right now, the true number of people in this room was... The moment I thought that, no. Just because I thought it, Beato grabbed at her chest and moaned. The true number of people in that room is 1. Don't worry.
ここはゲーム版のまだ外だ。
It's still outside the game board.
だから俺はそこにいるお前やじい様を否定はし
I
ない。
won't deny you were grandfather over there. I put my hand on Beato's as she tried to hold back the pain deep inside her chest. I've already told Bernkastel. The 2-day period of the 1986 family conference is all I need to deny the illusion of the witch.
お前は前回、全ゲームの開始時にじい様が死んでることを赤で宣言した。
In the last game, you said that grandfather is dead at the start time for all games.
ゲーム開始以前のじい様の生死については言及していない。
However, you never mentioned whether grandfather was alive or dead before the start time for the
つ
games.
まり、今この場にじい様が存在していても、何の矛盾もないってわけだ。
In short, even if grandfather exists in this place right now, it doesn't create any contradictions. My hand touching her left off a blue faint light, which seeped into her chest. The light tenderly wrapped itself around the splinters in Beato's chest.
そして、この場にいるベアトリーチェの存在だって否定することはできない。
I also can't deny the existence of the Beatrice in this
ゲーム
place.
版の外、すなわち1986年10月4日以前の島の人数については、
The number of people in this island is at the game board. In other words, before October 4th, 1986 has not been proclaimed in red. You like hair down, Beatrice? If only it wasn't depressed, Beatrice. Yeah, I like hair down, Beatrice. She's pretty good looking here.
だから、ここにベアトリーチェが存在しても、
Therefore, there's nothing strange about Beatrice existing here. Beato's expression softened slightly. My blue light slowly began melting the red splinters that denied the illusion of the witch. Beato still wore the same sad expression, but she lifted her face and looked me straight in the eye. Though she was silent, her eyes told me her pain subsided. The feelings that showed in her eyes were gratitude for taking the pain away, and appreciation, or was it surprise, for leaving even a bit of leeway for witches to exist. Unable to look directly at those pure eyes of hers, I reflexively averted my gaze.
誤解すんなよ。
Don't get the wrong idea.
魔女の存在を認めたり、あるいは屈したつもりもね。
I don't plan on accepting the existence of witches or surrendering.
俺はお前とのゲームに勝つために、その部分だけに徹して、
I just want to let that part
ストイックに戦いたいっ
slide
てわけだぜ。
and fight stoically, so I can win this game against you.
ゲーム版の外でまで嫌がらせをするほど趣味は悪くねえからな。
I have no desire to bully you outside the game board as well. Beato hung her head. I was still facing away from her, however. We waited wordlessly for a while, my hand still on hers. By now, no one would believe this sad-eyed woman was the same person as that prideful Beato, so I asked once more. Even though I said it aloud, it wasn't a question to her. I was asking myself.
お前は
Just what in the
一
world?
体
What were you
何を
thinking?
考えていたんだ。そうさ。
That's right.
俺はラムダデルタのゲームを通じてでも、お前を探さなくちゃなら
You
ない。
miss NJ? I miss NJ too. NJ was much more decisive than Battler and actually committed to the shit she was doing. Whereas Battler has been waffling for 5 chapters now. The man waffles the man waffles so much, I'm thinking my Eggos are pancakes, okay? Like, my actual physical waffles seem less real than Battler is. I think I should go buy some pancake mix next time I go grocery shopping. I think I'm actually out. Even though this is Lambda's game, I have to find you here. I have to find what you thought and what you were trying to do. Very soon this game will also reach October 4th, 1986. The 5th game will finally begin. Finally, the game will begin. And this time I'll reach the end of that journey. I'm not worried about service level stuff like murders and tricks. What did you, the Golden Witch Beatrice, think? And why did you do what you did? What were you hoping for? That's what I'm gonna find out. That's right, I already know how I can reach the end of that journey. It's been clear to me since the very beginning. This time, I'll spin the chessboard around. I'll read this tale not from my side, but from yours. And this time, I'll understand you. I'll pick my way to your heart. I won't let you feel pain. Don't worry. I won't let those witches use you as a toy anymore. Beato looked up at me again and gave a small nod. That's right, the position of Game Master might have been snatched by Lambda Delta, however, as long as I continue this contest with the intent of fighting against Beato, our fight will continue no matter who controls the game board. Very soon the curtain will rise on our game, and Battler will ascend as Game Master. Umineko? Nonako Koroni? At this year's family conference, we must conceal the Master's secret once again. Yes. I understand. You didn't know this is an incest harem? It basically is. Battler wants to molest everyone, even the literal 9-year-old cousin he has, okay? The man's a little bit handsy. I'm a little doubtful the same trick will work twice. I'm with Canon. Madam shares your concerns. Because of that, it was decided this year he will not leave the study even once. In other words, we'll make it seem like he's been shut away in his study the whole time? Yes. The only ones allowed to enter the study are the 3 of us, servants permitted to wear the one-winged eagle. Which means the 3 of us perpetuate the lie about Master. Correct. Relatives will probably question you about the Master's health and mood. Make sure you answer without hesitation and see to it that nothing is seen as suspicious. Yes. I understand. I'm sure you'll screw up right away, Ne-san. Maybe it's better to say you have a cold or something so you can skip that day. That's me. Shannon wasn't just making fun of her. He only wanted to release Shannon from the burden of working on this most serious of days.
源氏様
Genji-sama.
シャノンがシフトに入る必要はないのでは
Is it necessary for Shannon to be on duty?
僕たちだけで十分やります
We can manage things well enough without her.
それはできん。
That I cannot
奥
do.
様から我ら三人は必ずシフトに入るようにとの言
Madam
命
gave
だ。
strict orders that the three of us be scheduled to work on that day.
はい
Yes.
やり遂げる覚悟です
I'm prepared to perform my duties successfully.
どじらないでよ
Don't screw up.
どじりません
I won't. That seemed like a slightly out of character delivery for Shannon. Did you hear that line? Then Genji told them they weren't taking this seriously enough.
シャノン、カノン、
Shannon, canon.
すでにお使いする親方様はお亡くなりになっている。
The master we serve has already
し
passed
か
away.
し、本当の意味でお亡くなりになるまで、
However,
我らの奉仕は続く。
until he has truly passed on, we will continue to serve.
あの書斎は無人ではない。
The study is not
今
empty.
なお、親方様がおられ、
The
日
master
々
is
の
still
研
there,
究に勤しまれているのだ。
hard at work on his usual research.
それを深く心得よ。
Make sure you take it to heart.
はい源氏様
Yes, Genji-sama. Master is dead, but we'll pretend he isn't. And hello?
お父様がすでに亡くなっている
Father has already passed away? I assume this is them meeting elsewhere before they travel here. Yeah, be battler. Hold the hand of the entity that killed and enjoyed killing the entirety of your family several times over. Yup. Yeah, battler. It's like she has the power to resurrect them, and he's just like, it's okay, we don't need to resurrect them. Just do your own thing. Father's already passed away? Well, Ava, yes.
そんなバカな
That's insane.
まあま
Settle down, settle
あ
down.
例えの話や
It's only a possibility.
武田信玄はその死を3年の間秘密にするよう遺言したっちゅう有名な故事があるやろ
It's well known that Takeda Shingen said in his will his death was to be kept a secret for 3 years.
知らんか
Know about that one?
そんな話もあったかしら
Is that how it went?
日本史はよくわかんないわ
My Japanese history isn't so great.
当時武田は織田や徳川との戦の真っ最中だった
At the time, Takeda was in the middle of a war with Oda and
そ
Tokugawa.
こで信玄が死んだなんて話になったら戦況に悪影響が出るやろ
If people learned about his death at a time like that, it'd probably have been a seriously bad impact on the war.
そやから自分の死を3年隠すように遺
Because
言
of that,
したん
he
や
left a will saying his death should be kept hidden for 3
秀
years.
吉かてそうやで
Hideyoshi did the same thing, right? Looks at Hideyoshi's name.
主君織田信長の死を敵方に知られんように徹底的に情報規制を行い
He totally suppressed information about the death of his master, Oda Nobunaga, so the enemy wouldn't find out.
素早く毛利と和解して中国大返しを行い明智を撃ったんやないか
Quickly made peace with Mori and defeated Akechi at the Battle of Yamazaki.
一方の柴田勝家はそこで失敗した
On the other hand, Shibata Katsui failed at this.
敵の上杉に信長の死を知られ思わぬ反撃を受けて足止めを食らい
The enemy, Uesugi, learned of Nobuyuki's death, so Shibata had to deal with an unexpected counterattack and got slowed down. I'm sorry, but when I read Uesugi, I think of the protagonist from the quintessential quintuplets. Toyomi Hideyoshi Ushimiya. Oh, Hideyoshi, right? Same name? Coincidence? It's strange. Look at that. We're getting all the fate references here. Alas, no Shibata, right? No Shibata. Umineko's already had an economics lesson in it. Time for Sengoku era history. So Shibata had to deal with an unexpected counterattack and got slowed down? Okay.
その後の秀吉との後継者争いで大きく遅れを取
And
る
that's
ことにな
why
った
later on he suffered a great loss against Hideyoshi in the fight for the succession. Hideyoshi, who had a strong fascination with commanders of the Sengoku period, would always show off his knowledge when he got the chance. No Shibata Sakura. He has a design. He's present as a boss multiple times. Doesn't actually show up as a summonable character. Wincing slightly, Eva made him get back to his point.
早い話が、わしは去年の親族会議から
Basically, the whole time since last year's
ず
family
っと
conference,
違和感を取ったんや。
I felt as though something was strange. He felt a disturbance in the force.
私やルドルフが遺産の話をしてたのを廊下のお父様に聞かれてしまって、それで
You mean the time when Rudolph and I were talking about the inheritance and father overheard us from the hall?
そこや。
That's just it.
夏井さんや使用人たちはどこそこにお父さんがいた。不機嫌そうだったと口を揃えたが。
Natsuhi-san and the servants kept saying father was here or there, and then he seemed to be in a bad mood.
わしら親族は誰一人お父さんを見てない。
But not a single one of us relatives saw father, right? To quote Ushirmiya Battler directly, what right do you have to contest the belief that something occurred when you were not present? You have no right. Yeah, Battler disagrees with what you're doing, Hideyoshi, on a fundamental level. If someone tells you they saw something, you're obligated to accept it. It doesn't matter. Oh, it's Hydra at o'clock. You're right. It doesn't matter how far-fetched it is. If I say I saw an alien UFO landing, then you are goddamn obligated to believe that shit.
もしあなたの想像が本当なら
If you say the gray men are interested in abducting cattle, you just gotta accept it. If what you're thinking is right.
どういうこと
What does that mean?
兄さんが遺産の独り占めを狙ってるということ
Does it mean Nissan's trying to keep all of the inheritance for himself?
もちろん死んだことを隠すなんてかなり危険なことや。
Of course, hiding someone's death is a very dangerous
果
thing
た
to
し
do.
て遺産を独り占めするためだけにそれだけのことをクラウスさんがやってのけるの
All
か。
things considered, I'm not
わし
sure
も確信は
Kraus.
持てん。
I'm not sure Kraus would be willing to do it just to have the inheritance to
だ
himself.
が可能
But it's
性
possible.
はある。
確かに兄さんは昔から強欲よ
Well, it's true that Nissan has always been greedy. To be charitable, you think the intended meaning is it doesn't affect anyone else? He's overgeneralizing for sure. He's being very general. I'm like, what? This is a murder investigation. Yeah, but even in Badler's case, it's a literal murder investigation. He's investigating the deaths of like 17 to 18 people, and he's like, who are you to deny what someone says? And I'm like, are you fucking serious? 18 people are dead. Get fucking real. Look at this absurd body count. Let's count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18 people are dead, and he's like, who are you to deny something? Like, that is clearly 18 people is a more serious matter than one potentially dead person in Kinzo. So if Battler says you shouldn't deny Natsuhi's stuff when there's 18 people's lives on the line, clearly one person, which is one of the 17, should be less important than that and less worthy of being contested. Does it matter to his murder investigation if Natsuhi can summon magic friends or not, though? Yeah, it does, because it means she could actually do it in the future. So if you're like, so if I say that Natsuhi can summon Beatrice in the world of 1985, let's say that, okay? Natsuhi can summon Beatrice and Kinza's spirit directly, okay? If she can do that in 1985, what's the argument that she couldn't do it in 1986? Now he has a tougher case because he just acknowledged the existence of them in the past, or he is unwilling to deny their existence in the past when he's being shown information that's relevant to it. Because then he can say that, like, Beatrice was manipulating her, Natsuhi, and she's not guilty or something, right? Like, he can start saying really stupid stuff. I know you're being a devil's advocate. I'm just giving it a good explanation. I'm trying to give a decent explanation for why it's relevant. And it's specifically being provided to you by the person running the game. That is these people's deaths, life and death, right? So, like, it's automatically relevant because she's showing you it. It's just like when you see a scene in a movie or read a scene in a book, it should theoretically only be it should always be relevant to like the story, right? Even if it's a weird flashback, the weird flashback should be relevant to what's happening in the story or what will happen in the story, right? Like, theoretically, the only scenes you see in a story are going to be relevant. So if Lambda Delta is the GM and running this story, she should only show you scenes that are somehow relevant, even if it's not clear at the time. So when Battler is dismissing it, he should probably take it more seriously. Unless he wants to make the assumption that they're being excessively wordy and wasting his time. Which he can take that stance. He can take that stance. But that's just saying that the author is like excessively wordy. He shouldn't be like, oh, I'm not going to use it as ammunition because it's not the exact time period the game typically takes place in. I'm like, what, dude? It ties into the story of how the game takes place. Anyway. Well, it's true, Nissan has always been greedy.
全員でと受け取ったものを着服するなんてよくあることだったわ。
He used to take things that were meant for all the siblings, keeping them all for himself.
クラウスさんはわしら兄弟の中では一番裕福なはずや。
Kraus is supposed to be the richest of the
そんな
siblings.
クラウスさんがお父さんの死を隠すなんて危険を冒してまで遺産の独り占めを目論むとは。
Kraus-san scheming to keep the inheritance all to himself to the point of accepting the risk of hiding father's
わし
death
にはちょいと信じられんのだがな。
sounds a little
だ
unbelievable
が
to me.
そう疑いたくなるくらい去年の親族会議はおかしかったんやで。
Even so, last year's family conference was so strange, I can't help but wonder. Ava and the others were painfully aware of how reckless it would be to try and see Kinzo when he was in a bad mood. During last year's family conference, once they heard about Kinzo getting into a terrible mood, they never made an attempt to contact him. And that was why to this very day they still hadn't found it suspicious Kinzo had never appeared.
確かに疑ってみる価値はあるわね。
Worth suspecting.
でも本当に兄さんがお父様の死を隠すなんて大それたことをするかしら。
But I wonder if Nissan would really do something as appalling as hiding father's death.
傲慢なくせにおかしなところで小心な人よ。
That man has a coward side to him. Lambda Delta wants to keep everyone playing the game forever and miserable. Every character goes on a filibuster. That actually already happened. Beatrice quit the game. NJ dragged her back to the table. And Lambda Delta literally chained her to the game. Literally used magic to chain her to her spot. She can't leave the table or concede the game. She's actually physically incapable of conceding now. Meanwhile, for Battler, if you recall, Battler didn't want to play. They convinced him to play, and then NJ turns around and is like, "By the way, I'm your sister, and if you don't solve this game, I'm gonna end up miserable. I'm gonna end up miserable my whole life. I need you to come back and solve this." And then she dies in agony right in front of him. Remember that? His motive to continue and finish the game. I would also remind you that that NJ's appearance and her whole plot, her entire plot arc is ostensibly set up by Bernkastel to make sure that he has a motive to complete the game instead of AFKing or quitting. So, yeah, you can either be chained to the chair, or you can pull his sister from a miserable future. Pull his sister from the miserable future as she was jumping off a building to commit suicide to convince him to play it. And Jay is mincemeat to burn. Because, I mean, depending on how you want to take it, she died, but she might have died anyway, because Bernkastel, in the story at least, right? Magic isn't real, so this can't happen. But she was on the outside fence of a skyscraper at the top floor, and was ostensibly jumping, when Bernkastel plucked her. Okay, like she was probably gonna die anyway. And then in her own story, which we're not sure how true it is, she ostensibly fell and landed without dying. Imagine jumping off a skyscraper, falling through like 2 construction safety nets, hitting a banner or a flag or some shit, and landing on your feet on the bottom, landing on your feet on the sidewalk and just walking it the fuck off. Didn't she become the Witch of Resurrection? We're trying to prove in this series that magic isn't real. NJ became the Witch of Resurrection in her dream universe. But I mean, she also killed like 6 people in her imagination via the magic of gun. Okay, the ultimate death magic. It's called a dude with a sniper rifle on a hill. Like physics. Yeah, NJ laughs at physics. Like the entire story happening was dubious. It was mostly just a fun ride that was like really out there. Yes. Much like muscle wizards casting fist. Gun wizards are real. Oh yeah? I cast magic missile. It's the Glock version of magic missile, okay? It fires some 9mm magic missiles at a particularly high velocity. Very effective. Works all the time. Nobody tries to deny it. Right. For all his pride, that man has a coward's side to him. True, it's worth suspecting, but would Nissan really do something as appalling as hiding father's death? Would he really make such a once-in-a-lifetime bet?
いずれにせよ、今年の会議ではきっちりお父さんのご尊願を拝謁した方がええやろな。
Gun wizards are real? There's a ton in Florida? Trust me. I guess remind me never to go back to Florida. I've been there twice. And the second time I basically just hung out at a convention center, so a business convention center, not even the fun kind. So I was somewhat safe. Either way, it's probably a good idea to make sure we get a chance to meet with Father Drain this year's conference. After all, if everyone flies in from out of country or takes a plane, they can't bring a gun yet. Red, gun wizards exist. The red is actually an off-brand. The rumors are really bad. It sounds like Aniki's business is failing even worse than we'd imagined. Like, he's taken massive losses and he's giving it all he's got just to try and cover it up.
つまりクラウスさんからお金を借りるのはとても難しいことというわけね。
That'll make it difficult to borrow more money from him. Did Florida man break into your apartment? I could cry. I could cry.
経済的に困窮していることはある種の弱みにはならないの?
Would being in financial stress also weaken Crow-san's position in certain ways?
弱み?
Weaken his position. You let the Florida man.
投資家は超えてるから投資家なんだぜ。
Well, investors tend to have a keen
実は
eye.
金欠だなんてことになったら誰
If
も
they
見
hear
向き
he's
もし
actually
ね
low on funds, they won't want to have anything to do with him.
信用第一の世界なのね。
I guess trust is the most important part of that business. Kyrie smiled thinly. Rudolph was taken aback by the smile. He figured that his plan, which involved raising money to get him out of his current mess by borrowing from the affluent Kraus, would all come to nothing now that they knew Kraus himself was in financial trouble.
クラウスさんの信用はクラウスさんのこれからのお仕事に必要だろうけれど。
Confidence in Kraus-san's abilities might be a requirement for his own businesses in the future.
私たちのこれからには必要ないわ。
But it isn't necessary for our future.
兄貴をゆするってのか。
Are you suggesting I blackmail him?
私だったら嫌よ。
I wouldn't want to if it were me.
血のつながった兄弟を貶めるなんて。
For one blood sibling to take another down is no laughing matter. Rudolph felt a shiver go up his spine at Kyrie's cold smile. At times, Kyrie was able to throw away all compassion and think in an extremely ruthless manner. Whenever he saw that, Rudolph knew he'd never like to have her as his enemy. There's no laughing matter. Immediately laughs. Yeah.
お兄さんを脅迫なんてしたくないものだわ。
I'd rather not threaten Oni-san if we had any other way to get that money. Yeah, I'd rather not do it, but it's the first thing I'm going to suggest.
あったら悩んだりしね
If there were another way, we wouldn't be worrying.
選択の余地のない問題で悩むのは人生の無駄だと思わない？
Don't you think it's a wee bit pathetic to waste time worrying about a problem when you have no other options? Rudolph stopped talking, folded his arms, and lowered his gaze. He still felt some of the terror he had experienced thanks to Krause's violence when they were young. And now that same Krause was the one he needed to threaten. Rudolph would also be fighting against his childhood trauma. So to give her husband a little push, Kyrie smiled reassuringly, and perhaps coldly. I've never been a fan of work based on trust.
信用ほど積み上げるのに苦労して失う時が一瞬なんて割の合わない投資はない。
Takes hard work to build trust, but only an instant to lose it. There's no less profitable investment.
そうだな
You're right.
世の中100の信用より1枚の診察だ
You're right. All the trust in the world isn't worth a good banknote.
クラウスさんが大きな損失を出していると言っても
Yeah, Kraus is Kyrie's Oni-san because he is by marriage her older brother. That's how it goes. You'll see the same thing with just about everyone else. The only one who I think gets disrespected is Natsuhi, right? Natsuhi gets the disrespect from I think Natsuhi gets disrespected from Eva all the time. But I believe she still calls her Nei-san, but it's like super sarcastic. Even though Krause has been taking on massive losses.
私たちの急場をしのぐためのお金くらいは十分用意できるはず。
Got to be able to gather enough money to buy some
もち
time.
ろん、クラウスさんのこれまでの信用を換金してお金を作ってもらうことになるけれど。
Yeah, you always get Natsuhi calling Kinzo father because he's father-in-law, right? He's her father-in-law. Of course, he'd probably be forced to cash in all the trust he's built up so far, but that's also like has to do with like their weird-ass family structure, right? Like, I guess like I don't know if it's like all Japan or just these guys, but they're like ultra serious about what family you're married into, right? The Ishiramiyas. Like, if your last name is no longer Ishiramiya, get the fuck out of my sight. That's like the kind of way they treat people, if you noticed. It's like Ava was gonna be completely written out of the family if she didn't keep her last name. Like, oh, if you marry Hideyoshi and change your last name to whatever Hideyoshi's last name is, get the fuck out of here. Like, you basically get kicked out of the family if you change your last name, so they do some like curious things. Right? They have some curious family structures here. So if you marry into it, you're basically obligated to sacrifice your entire other family. Which is why it's like only desperate people marry into here. If you noticed, Kyrie is desperate to get away from her family. Natsuhi was desperate to get away from her family. Hideyoshi didn't have a family. Because as part of joining the Ishiramiyas, you basically have to say, fuck my entire family, I'm never speaking to them again. It's only Yakuza and affluent families. Yeah. But this guy the author only writes about Yakuza and affluent families. He only writes about Yakuza and affluent families. All the other families are the same too. Hideyoshi married Eva? Yeah. Of course, he'd probably be forced to cash in all the trust he's built up so far. This is gonna get ugly. We'll have to prepare sufficiently. Ava's a baddie, but her personality is black.
私たちには時間も失敗も許されてない。
Is she a hottie? That's the important part. Hideyoshi just wants someone who's who's smart. He seems to like it. Yeah. We haven't been given any time or room for failure.
そうだったわね。
Isn't that right?
私の京都の友人たちにそういうのを洗うのが上手な人たちがいる。
Among my Kyoto friends, I know a few who are talented at this sort of
あまり世
investigation.
話になりたくない連中なんだけど、一度会ってもらってもいい？
I'd rather not be indebted to people like that, but do you want to try meeting them?
領収書は切れないけど、きっと投資に見合うだけのものを調べ上げてくれるわ。
You can't expect people like that to offer you receipts, but I'm sure they'll dig up something that makes them worth the investment. Yeah.
マリアも元気よ。
Maria is doing well too.
そちらは大きなお世話よ。
That's none of your business.
ありがとう。
Thank you.
さあ、スケジュールを見てみないと
I'll
わか
have
ら
to
ない
look
け
at my
ど。
schedule. What is Rosa's plan? Is she gonna look at Maria and be like, Maria, you think he's dead? Does Rosa come to her conclusion on her own because she doesn't have a husband or a girlfriend? Rosa was talking to Rudolph over the phone. Ah, okay. There we go. Rosa rarely received calls from her older siblings, so she braced herself for something serious.
実はな、
Well, the
次
truth
の
is,
親族会議についてちょいと兄貴抜きで意見を調整したいんだ。
I want to have a talk about the next family conference without
エ
Anarchy.
ヴァ姉さんとルドルフ兄さんと私の3人で
Between you, me, and Ava Nason?
頭痛の増えそうな話ね。
Sounds like a
電
headache.
話じゃ詳しくは話せない。
I can't go into details over the phone.
お前にとって聞く価値のある話の
You'll find it's worth listening
それは
to.
いい話？
Something good? You have something good to
も
say?
ちろん
Of course, of course.
姉貴は乗り気だぜ。
Anaki's all for it.
姉さんが？
ロ
Nason?
ーザには賛同してほしいだけだ。金を出せとかそういう話じゃない。
All we want's your approval. We aren't gonna ask you for money or anything like that.
俺たち3人が全員結束してることが
The important thing is that the three of us stick together.
わかるな。
Got it? Rosa let out a sigh. She did so because in the past, when Rudolph and Ava got into a fight with Kraus, they always used to talk to her like this right before dragging her into it.
先に教えて。
First tell
その
me.
話は私も得をする話よ
I
ね。
stand to gain something too, yes?
あ
Yep.
あ俺たち3人で2億ずつせしめる。
The three of us are planning to each grab 200 million out of this.
うまくいけばそれ以上も引っ張れるかもしれない。
If all goes well, we might be able to squeeze out more.
お前の借金それでチャラだろ。
It should be enough to handle your debt, right?
それはいつまでにせしめられるの？
When can we expect to grab this
も
by?
ちろん年度内
Of course, within a year.
だ。俺も助か
I need
る。
it.
姉貴も助かる。
Anarchy needs it.
そしてローザも助かるってわけだ。
And you need it, Rosa.
担保を丸く収まる。
All three of our problems will be settled. Meanwhile, Kraus being like, I have no money. I'm in even bigger money trouble. I'm in debt over my head.
姉さんが話に乗るくらいには勝算があるのね。
So the chances of success are good enough that Naisans agreed to it?
話を聞く気になったか？
You want to
ち
hear
ょい
now?
途中だが、次の日曜日の19時に銀座のお前のお気に入りの喫茶店で会おう。
I know it's sudden, but let's meet next Sunday, 7 p.m. at that coffee shop you like in Ginza.
俺と姉貴の予定がそこでしか合わねえ。
You think it's interesting that in the first chapter, Kyrie acted like she didn't know about any of this planning? You can read it as a different setup, but you think it was a deliberate deception to fit in with Kraus's worldview that women don't get involved in business? I mean, I think there's a whole bunch of setups. I think they've changed the setup and pitch several times, as well as the timing of their pitches in every single arc. Like in, I think it was it like arc 3 or arc 4 where Kyrie pitches like a completely unrelated pitch, and Ava's the one caught completely off guard. Presumably because Kyrie was like ad-libbing, but still. Like, I think we can read it as they're always coming in with a slightly different approach. They're always trying to come in with a slightly different approach, right? Like, they haven't ever come in with the same approach, so I just take it as like them doing different things every time to try and get Kraus. Sometimes it explodes in their faces, sometimes it works out. The Cat in the Box has infinite interpretations, yeah. Alright. That's the only time Aniki's schedule in mind match, 7 p.m.
問題ないか
Any
2
problems?
億捻出できる話なら聞かないわけにはいかないわ。
If we're talking 200 million, I'll have no choice but to listen.
では次の日曜日の午後7時にレオポル
Let's
ト。
meet. 7 p.m. next Sunday, Leopold's.
マリアちゃんによろしくね
And
連
Maria-chan?
れてきてもいいんだぜ
You can bring her too if you
あ
want.
の子の前でお金の話はやめて。
Don't talk about money in front of that child. She set the receiver down with a clunk, a little violently. Dude, she's going to abandon Maria for a weekend simply to talk money with her siblings? Like, dude. Apparently either Ava or Rudolph got a hold of one of Krause's weak points. That would probably threaten him with that at the next family conference and force him to pay up. Even before hearing the details, she knew full well that it would be nothing good. Even so, this might be her once-in-a-lifetime chance to pay back her large debts. Why did she get into debt again? I thought it was something stupid. Rosa took a notebook out of her handbag and started marking the day she'd be meeting with Rudolph and Ava, and then she frowned and smacked herself hard in the forehead, because written there was DZL with Maria, something she'd planned to do with her daughter. Was that movie night with Maria? Maria was in her room playing around excitedly with Saktaro and the others because she was going to go to that recently built amusement park, Disneyland. It's knockoff Disneyland. She was going to go to Disney. She was going to go to Disney. Oof. The following Sunday. Ooh, feels bad. Skipping out on Disney for some money. I want a trip to Disneyland. Looking at the clock, Rosa saw that it was just past 9. Remember, Maria's like 9 years old. Disneyland seems perfect for her. It's just past 9 at night. Maria was breaking the lights out rule. After covering her face and agonizing for a while, Rosa stood up and stomped over to Maria's room. The room would probably be a mess as well. At least tonight, that was convenient. As she stood outside the door to Maria's room, listening to the happy laughter seeping through, Rosa's face twisted in anguish once again as she looked at the door. Then, when she raised her head again, her brow was furrowed and her face had become an ugly expression of anger. Rest in peace, Saktaro. You deserve better. Thankfully, NJ is the Witch of Resurrection. She can bring him back via her wallet. I went back, by the way, in case anyone was wondering. I think it's been long enough. I believe at the random store, I believe on the far left side of the screen, you can see Saktaro, or at least a part of Saktaro's like tag tail thing. In packaging, in shrink wrap. So Saktaro was not handmade by Rosa. She lied about that. And B, just bought in the town next to Rakenjima. Yeah. It's not handmade. That's why she's the Witch of Resurrection. I went back and looked at the picture because people were like, "Oh, you can see it in this," and I'm like, "All right, I'll fucking search that." And I saw it because I was going back through the video. I was going back through the video to recap and make sure I was for the render. I got it. I stopped and spent like 10 minutes to make sure I got it instead of rushing through. I think that's what it was. So her ability to bring it back is because she realized the truth, and that's where Saktaro is from. Which makes it an extra sad revelation, as it wasn't even a handmade doll. The weather wasn't that great. According to the weekend forecast, a certain tropical cyclone would likely grow into a large typhoon. If an unhappy premonition tended to be right, this year's family conference will probably take place in absolutely horrible weather. I wish a typhoon large enough to stop all boat travel would seal Rakenjima away forever. Oh dear, wish granted. If that happened, I'd be able to hide Kinzo's death as long as I wanted. Start sweating. If only the typhoon would keep them at bay forever. Natsuhi let out a deep sigh. Just doing that made her headache throb. As the day of the family conference approached, the intensity of her headache just kept on increasing. Natsuhi actually casting a spell. At that time, the phone rang. Natsuhi turned the TV off and picked up the receiver.
Hi.
Hello?
お休みのところ申し訳ございません。
I apologize for calling during your
源
rest.
氏でございます。
It's Genji. Okay, Genji.
何事ですか?
Is something the matter?
奥様に外線からお電話でございます。
There's a call for you from the external
ですが
line.
名前をお名乗りになられません。
However, they will not state their name.
名乗らない?
They aren't saying their name?
はい。
Yes.
先方は話せばわかるとは申しておりますが。
The person in question said you would know when you spoke with them.
いかがしますか?
What should be
いた
done?
ずらかもしれません。
It might be a prank.
どんな相手です?
What do they sound like?
おそらく若い男性ではないかと。
I believe it was a young
お
man.
心当たりはございませんか?
Any idea who it might be?
若い
A
男性?
young man? Natsuhi didn't have a clue who it might be. In the first place, there was no one amongst her acquaintances who would do something as rude as refusing to state their name. On top of that, a young man? As a wife, she must avoid any contact that might be considered suspicious with anyone other than her husband, much less a young man. As soon as she thought this, the phone call suddenly seemed like something dirty. But despite that, she also wanted to know what they wanted to tell her. Could it be some trouble related to Krause's business? What if there was some particular reason they needed to talk to Krause's wife instead of Krause directly? No matter what it is, it's my duty as a wife to listen and report to Krause. If it's a bizarre threat, I just have to firmly refuse and inform Krause I received such a phone call. If it's something offensive, I have to tell Genji to never send me anonymous calls again. It's a phone call. They asked for you by name. As Natsuhi thought this, just as Genji was suggesting he hang up on the man as though that's what she'd naturally choose, she told him to connect her to this person. She then set the receiver down. A short while later, the phone rang again. Hello? This wasn't the internal line. It was the external phone line which Genji redirected to her. It should have already been connected directly with the mysterious man. However, the person on the other end didn't respond. Not liking this at all, she spoke one more time, sounding displeased. Hello? Who is this? Tell me your name. She heard something that sounded like a sigh. She gulped reflexively, and after remaining silent for a little longer, the man finally answered. Been a long time, huh? It was the first time the man spoke. So this is presumably Battle Air. I was guessing it would be, but hearing the voice also makes it sound like Battle Air. Just how long has it been? How many years? What are you talking about? Who are you? The voice certainly did sound like a young man's, but it's hard to learn much about someone just by their voice over the phone. It sounded like a young man, but it might actually be a middle school-aged boy or a man in his prime who still had a youngish voice. Oh, might be too soon to be even sure this is a male. However, one thing was certain, Natsuhi could think of no one who would speak to her in an overly familiar manner like this. It'd be easy for me to tell you my name. That would make me very sad. I don't know what you're talking about. Who are you? What business do you have with me? You can't tell me that. I'm not interested. I'm hanging up. What I want is for you to remember. And what is it you're telling me to remember? I don't know you. I have nothing to remember. Oh, don't say that. I am your child, am I not? What did you say? You talking about? This tense music suddenly kicks in. Don't say things that'll make me so sad. Mother. The unsettling word thrust itself mercilessly into the depths of Natsuhi's heart and started churning it about. In her entire life, Natsuhi had never been told something so unsettling. In her bewilderment, Natsuhi felt her heart beat so loudly it felt like it would explode.
あなたに母と呼ばれる覚えはあ
I
り
have
ま
no
せん。
idea what you're talking about.
何のつもりか知りませんが、もう切りますよ。
I don't know what you're planning, but I'm hanging up. I came back for revenge. Revenge for your crime of 18 years or 19 years ago. I can read, I swear. Natsuhi's mind went blank, and from beyond the wind howling from outside the window, she most certainly heard the roar of the sea from that day. So, you actually do remember, do you know?
何の話かわからないと言っています。
I told you I don't know what you're talking about.
もう二度とかけないでください。
Never call here again. I've never forgotten how you treated me 19 years ago. To curse you, I still call you mother despite that. No, because of it. The family conference will be here soon, right? I am your son, mother. I'll come on the day of the conference. After 19 years. That I can have my revenge on you. Click. Well, that doesn't sound good. Breathing so hard, her shoulders heaved. Natsuhi slammed the receiver down and hung up. Then she hit the phone violently, knocking the receiver off. That no more calls would come through it. I can hear the roar of the sea. The voice I hear from beyond the howling wind is certainly... Even if I cover my ears, the headache won't. If it's actually Battler, he's sure mad about Natsuhi's actions when he was -1 years old. I mean, it was Battler's voice actor. Why he's being creepy, I don't fucking know. Maybe it's a fucking prank call to Natsuhi. Battler's motives are mysterious indeed. Completely pale, Natsuhi kept shivering as though cold.
Lambda, いる?
Lambda, are you there?
いるわよ.
I'm here.
が望めばどこにでも.
I'm anywhere you want me to be, Vern.
じゃあ台所の床下収納に入ってて.
Then would you kindly crawl into the cupboard under the kitchen floor?
ぬかみその壺の中でもいいわ.
Into a jar of rice bran paste if you would like.
ああ、私を味噌につけてかじってくれるの?
You're gonna dip me in bean paste and bite into
そ
it.
れなら蜂蜜につけてほしいものだわ.
But I'd rather you dip me in
お
honey.
返しにベルンは砂糖水で煮込んであげる.
In turn, I'll cook you in sugar water.
せめて砂糖醤油とみりんにして.
At least make it soy sauce with sweet sake.
それで何?
So, what's up?
副賞要求でも気取っちゃう?
Gonna make me repeat something?
そうよ.
That's right.
この夏日の電話のやり取りは事実?
Is Natsuhi's phone conversation here real? Lambda Delta grinned unpleasantly as though sizing Bernkastel up. She's probably trying to tease Bern for making that demand.
副賞拒否?
You refuse to repeat it?
さてね、
Hell
拒
no.
否か応じるかどうしようかな.
Should I refuse or should I
それを
respond?
決めるのはゲームマスターの私の自由だし、その判断をいつするかさえ自由.
And I get to make that decision anytime I want.
青字宣言でない限り、あんたに答える義務はないしね.
Unless I stated in blue, you aren't obligated to respond.
そういうこと.
That's right. Lambda, the little gremlin she is.
今はせいぜい、夏日の19年前に一体どんな秘密が?
For now, you're stuck wondering about Natsuhi's secret of 19 years ago, okay?
と、ワクワクテカテカしてなさい.
Make sure you're sitting on the edge of your seat. Of course, this fishy telephone call happened before October 4th, 1986. It's still before the start time of the game, so there's basically no need to question whether it's true or false. What are you talking about? It's going to be a motive. How is a motive not going to be relevant? How are some people this stupid?
ゲームマスターのあんたが わざわざ見せた以上、何かの布石だと思っとくわ。
Since you, the game master, went out of your way to show me this, I'll take it as a preparatory move for something else.
騙しかもしれないけれど、一応あんたのこの指し手は記憶に留めておく。
It may be a trick, but I'll at least keep this move of yours in my memory.
このカードを伏せたまま場に出すってやつね。
You'll leave without turning the card over.
何？
What? What?
ダイレクトアタック。
Direct attack. After suddenly being conked on the head, Lambda Delta was bewildered. That's right. Bernkastel attacks your life points directly. Perhaps this incomprehensible exchange was funny to her because she quickly went back to giggling.
これであんたのゲーム版の準備は十分？
Are you done preparing the game board now?
そうよ。
That's right.
それじゃあいよいよゲームを進めるわよ。
Yeah. I'll finally move on to the game.
1986年
On to October
10月
4th,
4日にね。
1986.
何度目の1986年10月4日かしらね。
I wonder what number October 4th, 1986 this
無
is.
限の魔女か。
The Endless
ベア
Witch,
トリ
huh?
ーチェ。やはり
Beatrice?
恐ろしい子だわ。
Truly a frightening child.
ベルン側は何か行動ある？
Any moves from your side yet, Bern?
ないわよ。
No.
あんたが復唱要求に応えないならそれで終わり。
If you refuse to repeat what I asked, I'm done.
ターンエンドね。
Turn end,
スタ
right?
ート。クリーンアップ。ドロー。
I'm pretty sure she said start, clean up, draw, not untap, upkeep, draw, but I'm not gonna complain.
さあ来たれ。
Come. Come! Unless that's actually what they call those phases. Because untap, upkeep, draw is for magic, right? Whereas start cleanup is a different game. Start cleanup draw is probably a different game.
1986年10月4日。
Unless that's just the translation of those, it'd be weird if they had different English names. Alright, October 4th, 1986, come! Bernkastel changes her expression to a neutral expression, and then we change. Alright. Alright, and it's what, 9 a.m. maybe? First day, October 4th, 1986. Wait, was that oh my god. Did I read that completely wrong? Oh my goodness.
やっぱりこのバラ庭園は圧巻だぜ。
Oh my goodness, it is 9. Why on earth would I consider... Or it is 11. Why would I consider it... I even tried to correct myself and say it is 11, not 9. No, 9 is... 9's on the left. 9's at the far left. Why did I read that and say 9? Oh my goodness. That's so silly. Yeah, that was 11 for sure. Oh my goodness. Not even close. X is 10. I is 1. It's like so simple to read Roman numerals. How'd I fuck that up? I even screw up the positions on the clock. Oh my goodness. Like, you can either read the numbers or know the position on the clock. The position is 270 degrees, far left side. Yeah, I assume I transposed it mentally somehow, but that's like a really big slip up considering you don't really need to read the numbers to know where the clock... Like, I have a watch that doesn't even have the fucking clock, like, doesn't even have the numbers. I had one like that for a while. Like, you don't need to have any numbers on your clock to know what they are. You just need, like, anything there, and then you read it, but... Oh, boy. I don't know how I said 9. That was a slip up. This rose garden really is a masterpiece. Oh, it is, by the way.
さらにすごくなってやがれ。
It's gotten even more awesome than it was 6 years
こんな
ago.
のが似合わなんて羨ましいぜ。
We're so lucky to have this as our yard.
んなことはねえぜ。
Are you kidding?
私にとっちゃ船着き場まで遠くて邪魔なだけなんだけどな。
For me, it just makes a longer walk to the harbor, and it's a real pain.
それは贅沢な悩みだね。
That's quite the luxurious worry.
毎朝バラと挨拶してから投稿。素敵素敵。
Getting to say hi to roses every morning must be
こん
awesome.
なにいっぱいのバラみんなと挨拶してたら遅刻しちゃうね。
You must get late after saying hi to so many roses. I like how Mari's like, oh man, must be frustrating stopping to smell all the roses every morning on your way to school.
エンジェは残念だな。
Shame about Enche
お
though.
腹壊しやすいんだって。
I hear her stomach gets upset easily, right?
らしいな。腸が弱いんだろうよ。
It's probably her intestines that are
しょっ
weak.
ちゅう下痢してるぜ。
She's almost always got the runs.
おお、レディーにそういうの言うのいけない。
You probably shouldn't. You shouldn't say something like that about a lady.
それはすまねえ。
Sorry about that.
そうだよな。女の子のお尻からはマシュマロが出るんだもんな。
Yeah, I forgot. Nothing comes out of a girl's butt but marshmallows,
エ
right?
ンジェは体調が悪くてマシュマロが水飴になっちまったわけだ。
So NJ got sick and the marshmallows turned into syrup.
それはさす
Okay,
が
that's really
下品が過ぎるね。
over the line. And down he goes. George slugged him. George and Jessica slammed a knee and a fist right into either side of Battler's gut. Whack! Smack thud. The smack thud was probably the sound made when his knees hit the ground and he fell over. Normally, Battler possessed the good sense you'd expect of an 18-year-old man. However, it seemed the reunion had brought him back to the mental age he'd been 6 years ago. And bit by bit, Jessica and George realized they were returning to the way they'd been back then. A new angle. And back in here. Natsuhi gazed at this charming chat through an open window in the hall.
奥様、
Madam,
旦那様がお探しです。
Rose-sama is searching for you.
もう少ししたら行きます。
I'll go in just
ま
a
だ
bit.
お昼にもなっていないのに。
It's not even lunchtime yet. I'm already tired. Just a few moments ago, the sparks had already started flying between them and Ava's group. The others had pounded on Kraus and Natsuhi over and over to get Kinzo out of his study. Apparently, they hadn't been fully tricked at last year's family conference after all.
お父様は問題ありませんね。
There are no problems with father, right?
はい、お
Correct.
任せを。
Leave
シャ
it
ノ
to
ン
me.
とカノンも今日の段取りを十分に心得ております。
Shannon and Cannon are also fully prepared to handle today's arrangements.
熊沢は嘘をつくのが上手なようですから心配しませんが、南條先生が少し心配です。
Kumasawa is a good liar, so I'm not worried about her, but I am a little concerned about Dr.
隠
Nancho.
し事が苦手そうでおられますから。
I get the feeling he's bad at hiding things. Send him to Kinzo's room. Send him to Kinzo's study to play chess all day.
お任せを。
Leave that
可
to
能
me.
な限り、私が南條先生のお近くで
I intend to
補佐
support
する
Dr.
つ
Nancho
も
from
りです。
nearby as much as possible. They can just hang out and play a chess game, and then if Nancho ever gets quizzed about what happened in the chess game, he can just describe the chess game. How's that sound? He can just describe the chess game he actually played.
あなたがいてくれるなら頼もし
So
いです、ね。
reassuring to have you here.
本当に助かります。
It does help a
現
lot.
地の
Truly.
力なくして成し得ないことです。
Without your strength, we wouldn't be able to succeed.
恐縮でございます。
I'm honored by your word.
安心せよ。
Don't
書
worry.
斎の密室結界は完璧だ。
The closed room barrier on the study is
結
perfect.
界を破らぬ限り、誰にも金蔵の秘密を暴くことなどできん。
As long as the barrier remains unbroken, no one will be able to expose Kinzo's secret.
ええ、分かっていま
I
す。
understand.
しかしあなたも先ほどの客までのやりとりを
Still,
聞いて
you
いたでしょ
heard the conversation in the parlor just now, didn't you?
うん。やはり
Indeed.
去年の時点で相当の不信感を持たれていたのであろうな。
It seems some considerable suspicions were aroused
凄
last
ま
year.
じき毒素を溜め込み、振りまいておるわ。
That terrible toxin has accumulated and is being spread all around.
やはり今年が正念場になりそうですね。
It seems this year's conference really will be crucial.
今年を何とか乗り越えることはできようが、仏の顔もなんとやらだ。
We may be able to overcome this year somehow, but there is such a thing as pushing
さ
our
すが
limits.
に来年は無理と心得た方がよかろうな。
It's best to assume that next year won't be manageable.
これほどまでに反魔法の毒素が満ち
And
て
with this much magic resisting toxin filling the
来年の
place,
親族会議でも
ゴールドスミス教の魔法を維持するのは難
It
しい
will be
でしょ
very
う。
difficult to preserve Lord Goldsmith's magic for yet another family conference.
誰ですかあなた
Who
は
are you?
あ
Oh,
あ、驚かずともよい。
no need to be surprised.
わらわの家具頭を務める男だ。
He serves as my head furniture.
はじめまして。
Greetings,
夏日奥
Madam
様。
Natsuhi.
ロノウェと申します。
My name is
どう
Ronove.
ぞお見知り
A
おき。
pleasure to meet you.
頼れる男だ。
Everyone's so consistent about the appearances of their servants, but not their personalities. This man's
この
reliable.
男にも密室結界を守ってもらう。
He's also helping to protect the closed room barrier.
そうですか
Is that so?
後ろ宮夏日です
I'm Ishirami
あなたに
Natsuhi.
も協力をお願いしま
Thank
す
you for your cooperation.
はい、奥様。
Of course,
魔
madam.
法世界から
I'll
お
be
手
aiding
伝い
you
を
from
させ
the
ていただ
magic
きま
world.
す。どうかお任せを。
Please rely on me.
ついでだから私も紹介してもらおうかしら。
I guess I'll introduce myself
は
next.
い、リーチェ。
Hi,
ご
Richa.
無沙汰。
Long time no see.
ガープか。
Cop! Now she's
姿ま
just
で
showing
来て
up
く
on
れる
her
とは
own.
心強い。
I'm glad to see you here as well.
遊びに来ただけのつもりだったんだけどね。
Well, I only came to have some
手がい
fun.
るようだったら声をかけて。
If you need an extra hand, let me know.
はじめまして
よ、
マダム。
Nice to meet you,
挨
madam.
拶するのは初めてだけど、私はいつだって誰のそばにでもいるわ。
It's the first time I've said hello, but I'm always right by anyone's side.
こちらのガープはなかなかのいたずら。
Gop here is quite the prankster and has quite the gap in her clothing.
先日、奥様が自室にてお召しになろうとして、
Remember
床に
that
落とし
headache
見つけられな
medication?
かった頭痛
You
薬。
dropped on the floor of your room and lost as you were getting
ガ
dressed.
ープの仕業でございますよ。
Gop was the one behind that.
確かに置いたはずなのに見つけられない小物があったら、こやつのいたずらを疑うがよいぞ。
Whenever you set something small down somewhere but can't find it later, it's always a good idea to suspect it's one of her
わらわ
friends.
も昔、ずいぶんとからかわれたもの
Long
だ。
ago, she used to tease me all the time.
そうですか
Is that so?
いずれにせよここは後ろ宮の屋敷です
In any event, this is the Ushiramiya
当家
mansion.
にいる間は当家に従っていただきます
As long as you are here, you will
よ
obey.
ろしいですね
Understood? Correct?
もちろんです。
Of course.
心得ております。
We
魔
understand.
法世界での現実と思い
Gop is a gremlin. Yep.
どうぞいつでもご用命ください。
A master of portals. Think of me as Genji of the magic world and give me orders when you wish.
私にも客人の心得はあるつもりよ。
And even I know how a guest is
家
supposed
主
to
の
act.
顔は潰さないわ。
I won't let the landlord lose face.
ロノウェもガープも頼れるぞ。
You can count on Runaway and Gop.
しかし、魔法の世界と人間の世界は表裏一体。
However, the magic world and human world are two different sides of the same coin.
分かってます
I
も
understand.
ちろん私も人間の
I will
世界
do
か
all
ら
I can
努
in the
力し
human world.
力を合わせてお父様の秘密を守りましょう
Work together. We'll protect Father's secret.
うん。
Indeed.
いつもの展開だな。
This happens every
どうせ
time.
翌日にならなきゃ話は進まねえ。
Looks like we won't be getting anywhere until the next day.
ふん
Oh,
ああそうね10月4日は私にとっての準備ターンみたいなもの
well,
だし
sure. October 4th is like a prep turn for me.
パトラに何もする気がないのなら10月5日までのんびりしててくれていいのよ
If you don't feel like doing anything, why don't you just sit around until October 5th? Do we have anything we can do?
6人死んだら呼んであげる
I'll call you after the first 6 die. There is something we can do. We can investigate the epitaph harder. I guess, in theory, we could end the game before anyone dies. Of course, that was an incredibly irritating way to put it. The fight won't start until the crime occurs. The fight could start now. However, waiting for the crime to start would mean turning a blind eye towards the murders of the first Twilight. In other words, it's like the same as being content with the fact that 6 people would die.
知ってる
Did you
チェ
know?
スの先手と後手では先手の勝率が2倍とも言われてるのよ
They say in chess, the person who moves first is twice as likely to win. That's not true.
戦術の進歩でだいぶ変わるけどね
It changes the tactics of the match for us. I believe it's like 50. I believe it's like a 51-49 split for winning between white and black. as going first does give you an advantage, but it's minute.
後手はドローを狙えれば上々とか言われてるんだっけ
Oh, they say the second player has a better chance at a draw?
先手必勝くらい俺も知ってるぜ。
Even I know the phrase the first to strike wins.
どうしろってんだ。
What are you trying to say?
そんなだからあんたは無能なのよ。
And this is why you're so incompetent.
本当に
Seriously?
いいバトラー
Are you listening, Battler?
10月4日にだって解くことができる謎は存在
There
する
exist puzzles that can be solved even on the 4th.
何が解けるか
Know which one I mean?
まさか。
You don't mean.
あ、いや。
No, wait.
しかし。
That's right. Battler's the kind of person. Battler's the kind of person. Since this is chess allegories, Battler is the kind of person who's just like, I'm gonna advance one pawn, and then I'm just gonna idly move one piece back and forth until my opponent does something that threatens my king directly, and then I'll act. Like, what is he doing? Yes, the first few turns I'm going to use to pass. He's the person who somehow manages to find a loophole in chess that lets him skip his first 3 turns because his opponent hasn't done anything and thinks that's a good idea. To be able to just sit with his perfect formation. And you're like, are you aware you're supposed to develop your pieces and put them in strategic points in the first couple turns of the match? That's what everyone's trying to do, is efficiently develop their board to the point where they can actually use the rear pieces to pressure their opponent and the pawns to hold ground or prevent their opponent from gaining ground. Oh well.
まあ見てなさい。
Watch and see Battle the Incompetent. Battler the Incompetent, still his title, alas. I have a general idea what these witches are talking about. I've tried solving it several times myself in the past, but I still haven't found anything resembling an answer. On the contrary, I still can't even understand why that puzzle exists. That's right. The reason it exists. Why did Beato prepare a puzzle like this in the first place? We all discussed it together from time to time in past games. However, I've started to avoid thinking about it, under the assumption there's no point in trying to solve a riddle that can't be solved. This time I should change my viewpoint. Maybe it doesn't make you kill people. Maybe Maria wouldn't kill people if she won. Would Battler kill people if he won? Probably not. Maybe it's like if any of the siblings gets it, because they're not fucking venomous pieces of shit, they might end the killings instead of proceeding with them, like Ava did. I shouldn't just focus on surface level stuff, like the truth of the riddle and how to solve it. What's more important is why that riddle was set up in the first place. Actually, I think George would probably kill people, so. Maybe not George, but Battler, Jessica, and Mario would probably not go for the continue the murders. Yeah, what's more important is why the riddle was set up in the first place and displayed for us to see. That's what I should be thinking about. The one proposing the riddle is Beatrice. Even if I can't solve it, I should be able to try and figure out what Beato was thinking when she showed it to us. Okay, this time I'm spinning the chessboard around. The witches call me incompetent. Let them laugh. They aren't my enemies. I am continuing our match, Beato. He is not denying that he's incompetent. He didn't deny it. He's like, they're calling me incompetent. Alright. It's true. It might be true. Oh! Looks like it finally started raining.
やれやれ。土砂降りは心の中だけにしたかったもんだぜ。
At this time. Dude, Battler's really really non-committal. Really non-committal. He can't even decide if there's a witch that if there's an extra person or a witch he wants to deny, and we're like 5 games in. Battler's really bad at committing to anything. Dang, I wish the only downpour was the one inside my heart. The people in the parlor noticed the raindrops that were starting to drip down the window.
これで親族会議が終わるまで
And now we have nowhere to run until the family conference ends.
それは兄さんたちだって同じよ
The same thing goes for Nissan.
逃がさないわ絶対に
I Won't allow them escape. You can be
こ
sure
っ
of
ち
it.
のカードは悪くないのよ。
The cards we're holding aren't
兄
bad.
さんは虚勢を張ってるだけだわ。
Oh, nice. Thanks, my dude. Nissan's just bluffing.
絶対に屈服させてみせる。
I'll make certain he surrenders.
取引っちゅうんはな、
Well, there's more to a deal than making your opponent lose.
相手を任すもんとちゃうで。
You gotta get a pitfall
落
ready.
としどころを用意しておいて、相手に花を持たせて、
Convince them to
自ら
stand on
に
it
座
of
ら
their
せる
own
もんなん
accord.
や。
Bold words, but nobody has successfully toppled Kraus and Natsuhi's team in the ring of this inheritance dealio yet.
秀吉さんの言う通りだわ。
Hideyoshi sounds
さ
right.
っきの話もちょっと追い詰めすぎよ。エヴァ姉さん。
We pressed a little bit too hard last time, Eva Nesan.
兄さんにはあれくらいでちょうどいいわよ。
It was reasonable considering it's Nissan we're dealing with.
なんだローザは寝ちまったのか
Looks like Rosa's fallen asleep.
朝が早かったとぼやいとったな。
She was complaining about how early she woke up in this
ま
morning.
昼寝もええんとちゃうか。
I guess there's nothing wrong with taking a nap.
下手すりゃ今夜は徹夜だ
There is a chance we'll be forced to spend all night on
今
this.
から仮眠も賢いかもな
A nap now is probably a smart idea. Out of consideration for Rosa, who'd fallen asleep on the sofa, the others quietly left the parlor. She doesn't usually do that, does she? Unaware of this, Rosa slept, and after telling Maria to stay where she was after that tantrum over not being able to find her rose, Rosa slept, unaware the rain had started falling. This is the first time Rosa's fallen asleep. Does Maria stay out there until dinner? Rain poured down as though it had been saving up for this moment. Of course, Mari noticed the rain started falling and was soaking her to the bone. However, that made her even more stubborn. Unable to find the poor, slightly unhealthy rose that she herself had marked, she just couldn't stand having that search be interrupted by something like rain. So the more rain fell on Maria, the more stubborn she grew. See, she's not staying because Rosa told her to. She's staying because she wants to find that stupid rose. The more the rain fell on Maria, the more stubborn she grew as she wandered through the rose beds. As she did, from behind Maria's back came a patter, patter, the sound of approaching footsteps. Then the footsteps landed in a puddle, making a small splashing sound, and Maria finally heard. However, even the slight distraction of that sound irritated her, and Maria ignored it.
こんにちは
Hello? That's an unusual voice. Maria turned around, bewildered. After all, that voice was one she didn't recognize at all. On this sealed-off Rakanjima, that voice belonged to no person she knew.
旦那様、奥様。
Rose-sama, madam. I mean, Beatrice is not here, so someone else is getting puppeted, right?
探しました。
I was looking for
大変でございます。
something important's come up. Kraus and Natsuhi had been privately discussing what should be done in a deserted corridor on the third floor. Genji had searched everywhere for them.
どうしたのかね。
What is
シ
it?
ーツを雨に濡らした程度では、そこまで慌てることでもないと思う、ね。
It must be something more urgent than a few sheets getting soaked in the rain.
何事です？
What is it?
何か粗相でも？
Has a blunder been made?
海難事故で漂流されたと申す方が、先ほどお屋敷にいらっしゃられました。
A short while ago, someone arrived at the mansion claiming to have drifted here after an accident at sea. Kraus and Natsuhi couldn't help but go wide-eyed and stare at each other. It was the first time they'd ever heard of someone coming to this island uninvited.
漂流
Someone drifted
それ
here?
は本当かね
Is that true?
気の毒に
Poor
来
thing.
客として丁重に扱いたまえ
Treat them politely like a
今は
guest.
どうしているのか
What are they doing now?
南條先生が診察しております
Dr. Nanju is performing an
まだ
examination.
診察中ですが私の見た限り
He
お
hasn't
疲れ
finished,
の様子ではありますが
but from what I
怪
could
我など
tell,
をされているようには見
he's
え
still
ません
going.
でした
Okay. Dr. Nanju is performing an examination. He hasn't finished yet, but from what I could tell by looking, the drifter seemed tired but uninjured.
それはよかった
Thank
私
goodness.
とナスヒは今大切な話をしてい
Natsuhi
る
and I are having an important conversation right now.
終わったらすぐに見舞いに行こう
When it's over, we'll go check on this
そ
person.
の漂流者にはぜひくつろいでほしい
Please,
と伝えて
tell the
おれ
drifter we want them to feel at home.
かしこまりました
Certainly. When Genji bowed deeply and started to leave, Natsuhi called him to a stop. Genji stopped walking and Natsuhi jogged up to him.
Genji.
Genji?
その漂流者は男ですか?
Is this drifter a man?
いいえ。
No.
お嬢様くらいの若い女性でございます。
She is a young woman about the same age as Milady.
女性?
A woman?
そうですか.
I see.
結構です。
Back to our work. It's a woman, so good news for Natsuhi. It's not the man she was afraid that would show up. That weird youth that called her. It turns out it's just a random woman. Alright. Surprise, it's a trap. Parlor of the mansion was bustling. Adults gathered, worrying about the health of this sudden guest.
まあ自力でバラテーンまで歩いてこれたなら命に別状はねえだろうよ。
Well, if she's able to walk all the way to the Rose Garden by herself, her life probably isn't in any danger.
転ばぬ先の杖やな。
It always helps to be prepared.
ライフジャケットのおかげやろ。
It's always, probably all thanks to that life jacket.
あ
Yep.
れがなかったら溺れ死んどったかもわか
Without
らん
that, you might have drowned. Yeah. I mean, realistically, if the boat, say, overturns and you have to abandon it, and then you swim, assuming you don't, like, hit your head on anything, and you like, drifted or swam to the dock, or, like, the harbor, because remember, there's a beach. The harbor is like a dock, and there's, like, sandy beaches. You probably wouldn't have too many injuries on yourself, right? You'd just be exhausted.
どんな子だったの?
What kind of girl was
ジョージ
she?
やジェシカちゃんより上? 下?
Older or younger than George? Jessica?
ジェシカお姉ちゃんよりは下だった。
Younger than Jessica?
ライフジャケットと水着だった。
You wore a life jacket and
ヘ
swimsuit.
トヘトみたいだった。
It looked like she was all tired out.
漂着したのが船着き場のあたりだったなら本当に不幸中の幸いね。
If she washed up near the harbor, that must have been a rare bit of luck amid disaster. I'm gonna turn the voices up a little bit. I feel like they're a little bit quiet.
このバカが!
A rare bit of luck amid disaster, yep. Why was she boating with the typhoon approaching? Owned her own boat. Said, fuck the weather, I can make it. Who knows what dumb shit people do. Like, people do dumb shit in bad weather on boats all the time. All the time.
もし島の反対側だったら大変だったわ。
It would have been terrible if she landed on the opposite side of the island. Yeah, it would have been, Rosa.
しかし気の毒ね。
Still, you have to feel sorry for her.
この天気じゃきっと船も来られない。
With this weather, the boats won't be
明
coming.
日いっぱいまで彼女もこの島に釘付けかし
I
ら。
imagine she'll also be stuck on this island all day tomorrow. At that moment, the door clunked open and everyone looked in that direction.
皆様、お茶はいかがですか?
Would anyone like some tea? It was Goda and Cannon, with the latter pushing a serving cart laden with a tea set. Goda understood well that doing a little extra at times like this would earn him points. The relatives, hungry for information, crowded around Goda. He ordered Cannon to serve the tea and became the sole object of the relatives' attention.
ゴダさん、どうなんだいその子は。
Goda-san, how's the kid doing?
元気そうなのか?
Does it look like she's okay?
さあ、わかりま
I
せん。
don't know about that.
ですが、心配ご
There's
無
no
用。
need to worry, though.
南條先生がつきっきりで見ておりますし、熊沢もシャノンも一緒です。
Dr. Nanjo's giving its full attention to taking care of her, and Kumasawa and Shannon are with
ど
him.
うぞ、ご安心ください。
Please have no
まず
fear.
は紅茶でおくつろぎに
Why
な
not
ってはい
relax
か
with
が
some
です
black
か?
tea for now?
さあ、カノンさん。
Come, Cannon-san.
早く早く。配っ
Quickly,
て
serve
配っ
it,
て。
serve it. He's like, oh god, they don't care about me, they just care about that person I don't know anything about. Oh no. But he does like being the center of attention. Cannon knew this tea was just Goda's way of earning points, so he lined the cups up with a slightly sullen air.
マリアも手伝
I'll help too.
大丈夫です。
It's okay. Maria's so nice.
マリア様はそのままでお待
Just
ちを。
wait there, Maria-sama.
う。おお、マリアも配膳やる。
Mario wants to serve tea too. Alright, Mario.
南條先生にはお会いしてないの？
Didn't you talk with Dr.
何か
Nanjo?
言ってなかった？
Did he say anything?
ええ、先ほどお会いしましたところ、それほどの外傷はないそうで。
When I met him a short while ago, he said there were no serious external
私
wounds.
もちらりとお見かけしたところでは。
From what I could tell at a glance. And just as Goda had successfully captured the gazes of all present and was about to start talking knowledgeably on the subject, Nanjo returned. Of course, Nanjo instantly became the center of attention, and Goda's like deflating like a pop balloon. He's just like, oh. Canon turned his back on Goda, who seemed downhearted. See? See?
南條先生。
Dr. Nanjo.
どうなんですか、容体は。
How's her condition?
大丈夫そうなの？
Does it look like she'll be okay?
皆さん、ご安心を。
Not to worry, everyone.
大丈夫です。
She's fine.
怪我は何もありませんでした。
No injuries at all.
だいぶ疲労しているようですが、今夜特に熱を出さなければ何
She
事も
seems
な
to
い
be
でしょ
quite
う。
worn out, but there shouldn't be anything to worry about tonight as long as she doesn't develop a fever.
ならよかったわ。
Well, that's good to
お
hear.
医者様はいても病院はないものね。
We're fortunate to have a doctor, but this is no hospital. Everyone was relieved to hear the girl was in good health. When Nanjo gave the more detailed results of his examination, concluding by saying she was young and should therefore be fine, everyone who no longer fell under this description nodded in assent.
やっぱり船は怖い。
What's really our
落ち
scary?
る、落ちる。
Fall, fall.
バトラーの言う通りだった。
Battler was right.
マリアちゃん、それバトラ君には内緒ね。
Maria-chan, let's not tell Battler about this. That's their excuse for Battler not being aware of another person on the island or meeting them. I like it. They're just like, yeah, let's not tell them about this. We don't need to be more scared of boats.
旦那様。
It's not a bad excuse, but it's funny. Madam, Krausama. Goda, who lost his nerve and was handing out cups, called out in an excessively loud voice. Apparently he was that desperate to get everyone's attention. God, Goda, shut the fuck up sometimes.
客人の具合はどうだね。
How's the guest?
はい。別状はないとのことでございます。
Her condition isn't serious.
そうですか。
I see,
それ
that's great.
今はどちらに？
Where's she now?
熊沢さんとシャノンさんがお風呂に案内したはずだ。
I believe Kumasawa-san and Shannon-san were guiding her to the bath.
それから服を見立てると言ってましたな。
They said they'd get her some clothes afterwards.
ならすぐに来るだろう。
In that case, they'll probably arrive here soon.
諸君、
Everyone?
親族会議の日ではあるが、不幸な事故で訪れることとなった来客だ。
Everyone, this may be the day of the family conference, but we have a guest brought here by an unfortunate
招いた
accident.
客人ではないが、どうか歓迎してやってほしい。
She wasn't invited, but I want you all to welcome her.
意義などあるわけもない。
Who could disagree with
賛
that?
成や。
I'm all for it.
同じくだ。
Same here.
女の子には優しくしろってお袋も言ってたぜ。
Didn't Mom always tell us to be nice to girls?
あなたはそれを人生のモットーにしすぎよ。
Maybe, but you didn't need to make that your life's motto.
ジョージたちも呼んだ方がいいわね。
Probably best if we called George and the rest over here too.
全員で挨拶しましょう。
Let's all greet her together.
そんな、かえって恐縮させちゃうんじゃない？
Wouldn't that just make her more uncomfortable? Ava stood up and made a phone call to the guest house. At that moment, they heard the sound of a knock, followed by Genji's voice.
源氏でございます。
It is
お客
Genji.
様がお越しになられました。
The guest has arrived. At those words, everyone fell silent, and the people who had been sitting stood up straight. Alright, is this our new guest? Genji came first, opening the door slowly, then moved off to the side, bowing deeply and urging the guest forwards. The guest had Shannon and Kumasawa following by her side, looking very regal. And surprisingly fancy. That's my first impression. Her outfit's surprisingly fancy for someone who just shipwrecked, and she's wearing like a dress with lace. I assume it's all they could find for her, but her appearance matches the dress uncomfortably well. Even after seeing the large number of relatives waiting for her in the parlor, she didn't seem overawed in the slightest. Just this single point showed this girl possessed a dignity appropriate for a guest invited in by the Yoshiromiya family.
Furudo-sama, ご紹介申し上げます。
Furudo-san. Allow me to introduce you.
後宮家当主代行。
Is it Bern with a personality?
クラウスにございます。
Yeah, it looks like Bernkastel's self-insert, right? Allow me to introduce you. This is a representative of the Yoshiromiya family head, Ushiromiya Kraus. Most notably, her real-life persona, Erika Furudo, from Higurashi. Look how similar the name is, okay? Furudo instead of Furude. And her name's Erika instead of Erika. Welcome to Rockinjima. Though you arrived due to an accident, you are a guest of the family. We welcome you. Please make yourself at home and relax however you please. Thank you very much. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Furudo Erika.
この度は後ろ宮家の皆様をお騒がせしてしまい、誠に申し訳ございません。
My deepest apologies for disturbing you members of the Yoshiromiya family like this. That is a weird way to draw the E in Erika. The little, like, hanging bit, it seems unusual in most fonts. Usually it's just a capital I. Usually it looks like a capital I that's maybe a little bit too wide. I wonder if that's a kanji that also means eh, or is just their font that they used. Because I'd expect that to just be E-R-I-K-A, and it's like got this really long hanging bit that's slightly unusual, is that as there's not a lot of what is that? Is that kerning? I don't actually know what it's called for Japanese fonts. But basically, like, the R-I and the R-I doesn't have any hooks on it. It seems like very, very flat. There's not a lot of like, if you've ever seen Japanese scripts, you know how it, like, you know how it looks? You know how it looks when it's drawn like it's done with like with a paintbrush or whatever half the time? That's how, like, fancy Japanese stuff looks. Or fancy, like, Japanese writing looks, where it's, like, drawn with a paintbrush. That's what the eye is giving me vibes of, but, like, I'm not sure if that's a kanji that looks like it, or if it's actually meant to be that, in which case it's, like, an unusual departure in their font from what I've read, what I usually read. You know, it's like some things look very mechanical and clearly computerized or perfected, and some things look like they're artificially adding, like, swirls and hoops and shit. Like, you've seen some fonts like that. They look fancy or look handwritten. Anyway, this one looks the I looks handwritten, which is weird to me. Or the E. That is, looks like an I. I'm truly grateful for the warm welcome I've received, despite my status as an uninvited guest. And what is this chick? Like a princess? Who speaks this way? This was greeted by an impressed sigh arising equally from all corners of the room. The clothes she had been lent were probably Jessica's formal wear from long ago, but the composure of her introduction didn't shame these clothes in the slightest. The girl's name was Furudo Erika. She looked, I mean, you can literally just move the E and replace the, and cut the O, move the E, and you get Rika Furude. So subtle. She looked slightly younger than Battler and Jessica, but her composure and mannerisms were beyond what anyone would have expected from a high schooler, almost as though she was a well-to-do family's daughter. Wait a second. Who the heck is this?
無能のあんたが主役駒じゃ、ゲームがさっぱり進まないもの。
With an incompetent like you as the main character piece, the game wouldn't go
だか
anywhere.
ら、私自身を駒として出させてもらう。
And that's why I've placed myself there as a piece. Bernkastel's like, you're an idiot, so I'm gonna do your fucking job for you and insert my own OC. But she's a player now, so that's fair, right? That's fair, right? After all, if she's a player in this game, and the GM can have GM PCs, surely the players can have characters in this game. Bern has entered the chat, hopefully doing something. Akechi Maibara? I mean, it would be like Akechi. It would be like Akechi Maibare. That's what the name convention would be. Burn could have placed Rika instead. Yeah, it would have been nice if she straight up just put Rika in here. That would have been funny. Put like the 6-year-old here. How old's Rika again? I don't remember. She's like 6 or 8 or something. That would have been funny. She probably doesn't like that version of herself though. I mean, she dresses like that. She has the same hairstyle, but she doesn't act like that person anymore. So maybe she doesn't want to have that as her avatar. I mean, I can imagine it. It'd be like having your 12-year-old self representing you on a game board. You're like, can I not have this? Can I just have like my normal self? I don't care what they look like, but can I have my normal self? Like if you had to pick between like your 12-year-old self representing you in a game, or your regular self, but with like an unusual appearance, what would you want? Like you'd probably be like, I want the one who's more competent, please. I want the one who's more competent and confident. Alright, that's why I place myself here as a piece. Alright. Well, it's a bit of a bonus. 12-year-old you was a Giga Chad? Well, if you're that confident in 12-year-old version of yourself, how have you fallen so far, my friend? I mean, I have confidence they would do their best. I'm just saying, I think I could do better. I think I could do better than my younger self because I know more. But I don't think they would. I don't think they wouldn't try. I just don't think they would do as well as myself. Because I think I've improved over the years. I wonder how you have to have fallen, though. It's been a wild ride down. Alright. Alright, man. Well, even in a close circle, it'd get boring to see the same crew every single time, right? So it's a bonus. Quit messing around. This piece doesn't exist on Beato's game board. Beato and I won't acknowledge it. You can't speak for Beato. Fuck off. This is Beato's game board, right? If Beato refuses, I'll consider it. What do you say, Beato? Beato was unable to answer, surprising nobody. Lambda Delta grinned triumphantly. Want to try complaining about the rules and stepping down from the game? Isn't that a favorite move for you mystery people? I mean, how about you just red text out some rules for the new characters? Like, simple things. How about the new characters will not be the murderers? Like, simple things like that. Like, new characters introduced this late in the game cannot be the murderer, okay? Like, that would probably... If you're going to introduce a character this late in the game, what would you want for rules? I think the easiest would be, like, they're unconnected from the mystery. They're unconnected from the mystery, i.e. they aren't, like, involved in any of the people's affairs. And they can't be the murderer. That would be, like, the most straightforward thing. It's like, they never kill anyone. They aren't directly involved in any of the affairs, so they can't be, like... They could maybe, like, interact with someone on the island, but they can't be like, ah, yes, I came here pre-motivated to kill everybody, or to ruin everyone's finances, so I'm gonna help out Kraus. Like, it has to be, like, their motivation has to come from inside the game board or something like that. That would make sense. So, like, they're basically just, like, reactive actors, rather than active actors coming here, if that makes sense. I think that would be okay. It'd kind of be, like, especially because, like, especially because Bernkastel's like a player, it's like, okay, if she's a player in the game, presumably she has to have some agency, and she can't just observe, because Battler's presumably allowed to push himself around or something? I don't fucking know. The Battler in-game is consistently dumb, but the Battler and other Battler seem to also be, like, viewpoints. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but, like, Battler only really comments on stuff that other Battler sees, kind of like it's his main viewpoint character, and he takes everything else as being, like, secondary or not real at this point. So I think having Bernkastel have her own character is fair, because Battler basically claims that anything that, like, Battler doesn't see is bullshit. So like, Or at least, like, pretty much bullshit, so, like, why not do the same thing with Bernkastel? I think that's okay. As long as you can, like, guarantee they're not connected to the mystery of the island. Like, she can't be, like, someone connected to the Golden anyway. She has to be completely unrelated. I think that'd be okay.
自分の意に沿わない要素が一粒でもあったら、それを理由に感触を起こして思考停止を起こすのは。
Ooh, Lambda. If there's even a tiny element that goes against your expectations, you throw a tantrum and totally stop thinking. A favorite move of the mystery people. Alright. Ugh. I feel like I'm being called out too. Don't worry.
このコマについては探偵宣言を出すわ。
I'll make a detective proclamation regarding this piece.
探偵宣言
A detective proclamation? Ah, Bernkastel's doing a detective proclamation, effectively saying that she's going to be like the Sherlock Holmes of this mystery story and is therefore like unrelated to the mystery and is intent on solving all mysteries as they come up. Basically, she's saying, as the rules of the mystery genre usually dictate, like the person investigating the murder isn't like the murderer, right? She's saying she's going to be the detective and is thus not guilty of any murders. Let's see it. There we go. In red, I proclaim that Furudo Erika is the detective. The detective isn't a culprit, yep. No proof is needed to show this. It's part of the genre. If they're a detective, they aren't the killer. In short, there's absolutely no need to suspect this girl. Even if she appears as a human piece from now on, you can build theories the same as you always did, get it? Nox is 7th, right? Yep. It is forbidden for the detective to be the culprit. There was an exception clause in the original, but for this game... The detective isn't a culprit has been proclaimed in red, so you don't need to consider the exception. I hate word games, so I'll say this in red too. Furudo Erika is not the culprit. Repeat it. Repeat. Furudo Erika had no influence on any of Beato's games before now. Yeah, sure. Problem. Furudo Erika had no influence on any of Beato's games before now. She's nothing more than an extra character who appears for the first time this round. She does not exist in the worlds before this one, nor does she influence them. What does that do to the number of people on this island right now? Of course, it's +1 from the previous number. But don't worry. Furudo Erika only increases it by 1 person. Besides her, the number of people on this island is exactly the same as it was in the previous games. At that time, the sound of people dashing down a corridor could be heard. It was Battler, George, and Jessica who came in from the guest house after being called here by Eva. They immediately spotted a guest they didn't recognize and their eyes went wide. Who are you? She came by falling. Mario's like, I don't know what subtlety is. Huh? Fall? Genji-san? Who is this person? This is the guest, Furudo Erika-sama. Furudo-sama. This is the daughter of the family. Jessica-sama. Along with her cousins, George-sama and Battler-sama. Jessica the One Punch Man returns. Jessica, Saint of Punching Returns. She is this game's punchy saint. Nice to meet you. I'm Ushirumi Jessica.
はじめまして。
Nice to meet you.
フルドエリカです。
My name is Furudo Erika.
よろしくお願いいたします。
I'm very pleased to meet you. Though Battler, George, and Jessica didn't have a clue what was going on and were utterly bewildered, they each introduced themselves.
好都合じゃない。
Isn't that
これで人
convenient?
数がはっきりするわ。
This way the number of people is
ゲスト
clear.
ハウスのバトラーたちが合流し、今客間には金蔵以外のすべての駒が人間が揃った。
People in the guest house have joined up with the rest, and now all the pieces except for Kinzo, all the humans, have gathered in the parlor.
そうなるわね。
Looks
つ
like
まり今この客間にいる人数が在当者すべての人数ってことになるわね。
in other words, the number of people in this parlor is now equal to the total number of people on the island. Why are you using that in red
18
text?
人いるはずの島が、じいさまが実は死んでて、17人になった。
Genji can one-shot magic furniture. Is he Old Man Lee then? He just might be. There were supposedly 18 people on the island, but since grandfather's actually dead, that became 17.
そこにベルンカステルの駒が。
And now one piece of Bernkastel has been added. Yes, we understand, Battler. The number of humans on the islands returned to 18. I glanced around at the humans in the parlor. The guest, Riko Furudo, Erika Furudo, and behind her, Kumasawa-san and Shannon-chan. Off to the side was Genji-san. Uncle Kroos and Aunt Natsuhi were welcoming the guest. Goda immediately started showing off, and Canon-kun was being unsociable, wearing his usual blank expression. There were Dad and Kirie-san, Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi, Aunt Rosa and Maria, and Dr. Nancho. On either side of me, George, Aniki, Jessica, and Jessica. She doesn't get a title. It's everyone. The true number of people on the island at the moment.
何しろ僕たちは全員後ろ
Wait,
宮
did
だ
I
から
miss?
ね。
Hold up. All of us are Ushiromiyas? Yeah, okay. Everyone was mentioned.
気兼ねなく下の名前で
Please
呼んで
don't
ほしい
feel obligated to call us by our family name.
僕はジョージ。
I'm George.
俺はバトラだ。
Please don't call all of us by our family name. To be fair, that would be very confusing. It's like more than half the people here are Ushiromiyas. Imagine going up to it and being like, Ushiromiya-san, and it's like 5 people look at you. He's forgetting to mention Beto hiding behind the couch. Of course. Of course, Beto's hiding behind the couch right there. You can't see her. You can't see her quite yet. She's gonna pop out and scare her. Nice to meet you.
ありがとうございます。ジョージさん、バトラ
Thank you
さ
very
ん。
much. George-san. Battler-san.
私のこともエリカと呼んでもらえると嬉しいで
I'd
す。
be pleased if you would call me Erika.
よろしく、エリカさん。
Nice to meet you, Erika-san. Maybe she's hanging out in Kuidorian. It was decided that Erika would be welcomed like a guest and allowed to borrow the bedroom next to the cousin room on the second floor of the guest house. In front of all the relatives, she seemed dignified and a bit stiff. However, as she talked with George and Jessica, her expression began to soften gradually, and so the detective, Furudo Erika, was placed on the game board. I mean, it is a mystery novel. Gotta have that detective piece.
Jessica の昔の服、あんなに似合うなんて思いませんで
I'm
した。
surprised Jessica's old clothes suit her so well. Gop inside the floorboards, Ronove and Virgilia directly behind their human counterparts, at an angle that stops Battler from seeing them. Don't forget all 7 stakes. They're hidden in the couch. They're hidden in the couch, you know, in the cracks. You kind of just slide your hand between the cracks, grab a knife, and get stabbing. Nice and easy.
熊沢が勝手にお嬢様の昔の服を使用してしまいました。
Kumasawa made the decision on her own to use Milady's old clothes.
お許しください。
Please forgive her. The clothes Erika wore were Jessica's old formal attire. Though the guest possessed a dignity that would put most adults to shame, her body was still physically similar to a middle schooler's. Jessica's old clothes fit her perfectly.
Not to worry. They
match this guest perfectly. If she likes them, we might even let her keep them as a sign of friendship. Certainly. Thank you very much. You contacted the police and her family? Yes. They seem to have been quite distressed. By the way, oh, this means the phone lines aren't cut yet. Good to know. Our guest really was involved in an accident, right? She herself said she fell from a boat as it was returning to port. Is there anything to back up that claim? I checked with the Coast Guard. It seems she fell from the rear of a pleasure boat unnoticed by the others on board. We don't know the exact location she fell from, but it was probably somewhere near the island. It's foolish to play on a boat with such bad weather forecast. However, is it really conceivable she nearly drowned in the nearby waters and drifted to the island? It is not impossible. Tales of drifters washing ashore exist in several of the islands around this area. Everyone's like thinking she's a plant. Oh my god. All the fucking adults are gonna be like, she's a plant by you to ruin the conference! I can see it now. I believe it likely an accident occurred. We're in the middle of a typhoon. It would not be possible to land a boat anywhere on this island. Genji had already considered what she now suspected. Natsuhi probably suspected this mysterious guest, who had arrived during the already high-stress family conference, might be the agent of a conspiracy. Genji had already checked to make sure the accident was real, that Furudo, Erika was her real name, and that there was nothing suspicious going on. I understand. My husband has ordered she be politely entertained. Make sure there are no blunders. However, you do understand, don't you? It is a concern. That pleasure boat was really zooming, okay? They had to make it to port, like... They had to just fucking book it to port at like 500 knots. I don't know what a fast speed on a boat is. She just flew right out the back. In time for the thing, because it's like how long was it on their boat when they weren't speeding? It was like 2 hours a boat ride or something like that. It was like an hour or two. It's boat ride. It was a long boat ride. If they're going slowly, so that thing must have been zooming. I believe people are speaking in Rot 13 if they are mentioning spoilers. Rot 13 is a simple Caesar cipher that I believe just rotates all the letters in the alphabet by 13 characters. Or, sorry, a simple substitution cipher. Yeah, 13 characters long. Basically, if you assign every single numerical value, if you assign every single letter in the English alphabet to a numerical value, from like 1 to 25, from 0 to 25, sorry, and you just add 13 with all numbers above 25 looping around. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty straightforward. If a pain to do by hand, a website works. A website or any program is pretty quick at doing it. It's really easy. Especially because characters are stored characters are actually stored as can be represented quite easily as numbers. As chars are all actually integers. Well, yeah. Yeah, ASCII characters are all actually like really small integers, so really easy. It's so easy. In fact, they're already nicely mapped for you in programming most of the time. They're just in 2 annoying character sets. Because capital letters are a different number than lowercase. If you solve every mystery, then you too might be able to read things with love. I won't let her anywhere near the family conference. After dinner, I will see she retires to the guest house.
客人をお父様に挨拶させろというような流れにもならないよう、よく注意するのですよ。
Make sure they don't start trying to force us to let her meet father, or anything like that. Of course. I will keep that in mind.
ほう。
Oh.
フルドエリカとな。
Furudo Erika
こ
was
の
it?
六軒島に来客とは珍しい。
It's rare for guests to come here to
楽しま
Rokkenjima.
せてくれそうではないか。
Doesn't it look like this will be interesting?
ベルンカステル教の駒でしょう。
She's probably Lady Bernkastel's piece. Wait, how does Natsuhi know about Lady Bernkastel?
人間のルールに従うとはいえ、プレイヤーは魔女です。
Though she will follow the rules of humans, the players a witch.
侮ることはできませんよ。
We shouldn't underestimate her.
問題ない。
There's no
仮
problem.
にベルンカステル教本人であろうとも、人間である以上、わらわたちの敵ではない。
How does Natsuhi know about Gop? I would assume Natsuhi knows about Gop and Ronove because I like it's a bit of a stretch, but I would assume Gop and Ronove are known entities to Natsuhi because Kinzo went on a rant about them at some point, and she's like maybe seen them in a fucking picture book or some shit. Like, Kinzo's obsessed with the occult. It would not surprise me if he went on a rant about all the 72 demon gods, and she just conveniently happened to remember the exact 2 that he summons. Or claims to have summoned. I mean, he was dead the whole time after all. Even if she were Lady Bernkastel herself, since she's human, she's no match for us.
何しろガープもいる。
Nazi learned to roleplay Kinzo being alive by reading his fanfics. Seems fair enough. She imagined him in the same outfits. Exactly. That's why I said a picture book, because anything else would be too hard. We'll assume they kept their outfits because limited asset use, okay? It's like, imagine a dress, and it's like someone imagines it. They're all in the same outfit because they're like, we're not making a sprite for every new character who imagines this character. Because that would be silly. Then Beatrice would have to look slightly different every single time, and she's been imagined by like the entire cast. Limited assets, unlimited assets. Anyway, after all, we have Gop with
人
us.
間はガープに絶対に勝てぬ。
Humans certainly can't win against Gop.
ありがとう。でも買いかぶりすぎは良くないわ。
Still not a bad idea to overestimate yourself.
魔女の定義は魔法が使えることだけを意味したりはしない。
The definition of witch doesn't only imply the ability to use magic.
ですが、ジョーカーであり、台風の目である。
A joker in the eye of a
それ
typhoon.
が魔女という。
That's what a witch is.
この六軒島で魔女と名乗ってよいのはこのわら。
I'm the only one who gets to call herself a witch on this
黄
rockin'
金の
ship.
魔女にして無限の魔女、ベアトリーチェのみである。
The eye, the gold and endless witch,
ベルン
Beatrice.
カステル教名。エンジェの次なるコマがどの程度のものか。
Let's see how good Lady Bernkastel's next piece after NJ is.
じっくりと観覧させてもらおうぞ。
I intend to watch very closely. Now it's what, 7? Wait, was it like 5? Was it like 5 beforehand? We talked about 9 and 11. That was the minute hand, though. That was like 5 to 5. Was that like 5 to 5? Erika's seat was the lowest one in rank. In other words, it was at the inferior end of the table. Since Kinzo's seat at the high end of the table was empty, if you spun the whole thing around, it sort of looked like Erika was the host of this dinner.
それでは皆様、
Well then, everyone.
本日の晩餐を始めさせていただきたいと思います。
I would like to begin tonight's dinner, if I may. After Goda's announcement, dinner began with the applause that had become almost customary. It was finally the beginning of the dinner orchestra conducted by Toshiro Goda. Except for Krause's household, sitting at such a majestic dinner table was no everyday thing for these people by any means. However, they were all used to this event and acted as though it was completely normal. Once again, if anyone was to be surprised, it should have been Erika, and yes, she showed no signs of amazement at this dinner and acted with composure, blending in with everyone else. There wasn't even a sliver of fear one might expect from someone who'd wandered here like a lost puppy. She's so bad at showing emotions. It's like Bernkastel is so bad at showing emotions that her avatar is still a robot. What an odd child. The least bit flustered by the Yoshiromiya family's grandest dinner of the year. Kids these days have nerves of steel. Looks at Jessica. Looks at Maria. Looks at Battler. Definitely not something I dislike.
Furudo-san wa kouyuu shokuji ni wa narete iru no desu ka?
Is Furudo-san used to meals like this?
Taishita ochitsuki you da.
She seems exceptionally composed.
ほんまやな。
I'm kidding, man.
ずいぶん手慣れたもんや。
He looks really experienced.
わしなんか未だに次はどのフォークを使えばいいんか混乱するんやで。
I still get confused about which fork I'm supposed to use next.
ああ、こっちやったか。それともこっちやったか。
Was it this one or was it this one? Without showing any confusion over the line of utensils in front of her, Erika gracefully ate her hors d'oeuvres. Fucking apps, who cares? Hideyoshi had started joking around with her, gripping a fork in each hand. Of course, the president of a company in the food service industry like Hideyoshi obviously knew his table manners. However, thinking that Erika must be nervous over his dinner, he intentionally spoke with a comic tone of voice. You just start on the outside and work your way in. If it's a pain, just ask for some chopsticks. If you're Japanese, you gotta love chopsticks. Chopsticks are so great. Just one pair of these, and you can deal with any kind of food. As soon as she began talking about chopsticks, her eyes started glittering. The smile she now showed for the first time was far different from the dignity she'd displayed before, more like something you'd expect from someone her age. Even you would consider using a spoon for curry and rice, huh? Just make it a donburi bowl. Is there anyone who eats beef bowls with a spoon? Of course not. The Japanese, it's absolutely, positively, totally chopsticks. Goda-san. Do you mind bringing me some chopsticks? I want to show everyone how a true Japanese person should eat without any shame. By the way, what are we eating next?
それが困ったことに、次はスープでございまして。
Unfortunately, that would be soup. A little bit harder to drink with chopsticks. So, can't quite do soup and chopsticks very well. As she imitated a shrugging gesture, Erika winked at everyone. Of course, no one was laughing at her. She obviously knew that soup came after hors d'oeuvres in a full-course meal. I forget how you pronounce that. Anyway, furthermore, Erika had noticed that both that she'd been performing too perfectly and creating a sense of tension, and that Hideyoshi had tried to break the ice because he thought she was nervous. That's why she started acting a little childish and lighthearted. Acting out the part of a guest, enjoying a harmonious dinner, because she's like, I have to be the detective for a murder in 5 minutes. Apparently, Bernkastel does her vacation in Hinamizawa when she doesn't find any board game or fragment that she's interested in. Fair. Pretty soon, not only Kyrie, but everyone else caught on. Though she was an uninvited guest, she was apparently worthy of participating in an Ushiromiya family dinner. Smart kid, smart kid.
本当にこの子、偶然の来客なの?
Did she really just come here by coincidence?
実は、今日の親族会議にこっそり呼んだ兄さんの隠し子じゃないの?
Oh, tell me you secretly called your illegitimate child to today's family conference, Nisa? Nisa?
賢く場を和ますセンスもあるようだ。
Seems she even has the smarts to brighten the mood.
マナーも見事じゃないか。
And her manners are simply wonderful.
あんな子が娘だったら悪くはないね。
It wouldn't be bad at all to have this girl as a daughter. Yeah, she's considerably better taught than Jessica, so I don't think it can be his illegitimate daughters. Jessica's not even remotely like that.
それはひでえぜ。
That's pretty cruel.
ジェシカちゃんの立つ瀬が
Where does that leave Jessica?
ひどいわ、ルドルフ兄
Me
さ
and
ん。
Rudolph Nisa.
どうしたんだいジェシカちゃん。
What's wrong, Jessica? And Jessica's just like, got
頭痛かい
Headache?
私の評価がずんずん下がってる気がするぜ。
I get the feeling my reputation's taking a dive. Maybe you should punch someone?
こりゃ、本家の令状として負けられねえだろ。
Well, if you're a daughter of the head family, you'd better not let her
お
be
前
you.
も日頃夏日おばさんに仕込まれてるテーブルマナーと貫禄で対抗してみろよ。
Try using those table manners and dignity Aunt Nazi is always training you with and fight back. How? By stabbing her with a fork? I wanna see.
テーブルマナー見たい。
I wanna see table manners.
ほら、はしゃぐのはマナー違反だよ。
Jumping around is bad
さ
manners.
あ、ジェシカちゃん。
Come on,
お
Jessica.
手本を見せてあげて。
Show us how it's done.
お、
Sure.
もちろんだ
Of
ぜ。
course. Jessica straightened up so much it looked like someone poked her back with a pole. She had a good posture, but somehow lacked elegance. She looked, well, kind of like a triangle ruler. She sat at attention with her gaze fixed straight ahead and tried to bring her food to her mouth despite this and failed miserably. Dad, who was sitting next to her, suddenly realized something was up.
どうしたんだ、ジェシカちゃん。
What's wrong, Jessica? Nothing worse than trying to be very professional and or elegant, and someone's like, "Are you okay?" Like, just imagine, it's like, "Man, you eat like a slob. Can you eat normally?" And like, someone looks to you and is like, "Ma'am, are you okay? Do you need help? Do you need a doctor?" Like, shall I call the ambulance for you? Oh no.
腹でも痛えのか
Stomach ache. Jessica turned bright red. Sorry, I can't help myself. We laughed our heads off. Jessica protested, still bright red, and Aunt Nazi scolded us for being too improper. Well, no matter how much we try to smooth it over, we are who we are. We couldn't pretend any longer, and still, that laugh really did help us to relax. We were so concerned about the guests getting nervous, we'd gotten even more nervous ourselves. Our chatter from the center of this long table spread to both ends, and ultimately the dinner went even more smoothly than usual. Does that mean there's going to be no letter from Beatrice? With some delicious cheese and coffee, our peaceful meal came to an end. Goda won unanimous acclaim and was praised for his skill by all present. After a short period of harmony following the meal, it was decided we would return to the guest house. Normally, dinner tended to have a very dark atmosphere about it, and the adults would often keep that mood as they moved straight on to the family conference. However, perhaps because this year's dinner had been oddly peaceful, everyone decided to take a break, the adults included. After eating, taking a bath, and relaxing while watching TV, I wonder if they'll gather again in the mansion when all this rain and stuff's going on and resume that high-tension family conference of theirs. I'd rather not think about it. Apparently Aunt Ava was getting really worked up trying to convince the rest to start the conference right away, but it didn't look like many agreed with her. They'd probably call it quits for the night. Since they had guest house duty, Goda-san and Kumasawa-san were chosen to guide us to the guest house. Gotta be tough for Goda. Even after making and cleaning up such an extravagant dinner, he also has the late night shift at the guest house. I heard Kumasawa-san, old as she was, would be going to sleep soon. It seems She was assigned a spare room.
皆様をゲストハウスまでご案内させていただきます。
Allow me to guide everyone to the guest house. It also sucks that he's got to work so late, because remember, he's also in charge of breakfast. He's in charge of breakfast, lunch, and... I don't know if it's supposed to be in charge of lunch and dinner, though, on the second day. But for the first day, he's in charge of lunch, dinner, and breakfast. That's a lot of work. You get a really short sleep, too, because he's got to be up at like 5 for breakfast or something.
エリカ様のお部屋もご用意できております。
Erika-sama, a room has also been prepared for you.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much.
体調はどうです
Why not
具
rest
合
a
が
bit?
悪かったりはしませんか
Are you sure you feel okay?
ああ、そうだよな。
Right.
すっかり忘れてたけど、エリカちゃんは溺れてて流れ着いたんだ
I
よな。
totally forgotten. You nearly drowned and floated here, didn't you,
今日は
Erika-chan?
無理しねえで、早く寝た方がいいだろうな。
You're probably better off taking it easy and getting to bed early tonight.
全然平気です。
I'm perfectly
そ
fine.
れよりも緊張と興奮でむしろ寝つけないくらいです。
On the contrary, I'm so nervous and excited, I doubt I could get any sleep.
じゃあ遊ぼう。みんなで遊ぼう。
Let's all play together.
トランプしよう。
Let's play cards. Mario latched onto her, giggling. This lack of restraint peculiar to youth was very much like Mario. However, we really should be concerned for Erika's physical condition now.
マリア、トランプは私たちと一緒に遊ぼう。
Mario, why don't you play cards with
エ
us?
リカお姉ちゃんは疲れてるんだってさ。
Erika One-chan's tired.
トランプも好きですよ。
I like cards
一
too.
息つきましたらぜひご一緒させてください。
Please let me join you after I've had a short break.
やったー。
We're just playing cards, classic Higurashi, yeah. We're going back to Higurashi already. Chapter 5 is just Higurashi. We hang out, play cards, punishment games.
あれはどちら様ですか？
Who's that? As she passed through the lobby of the entrance hall, Erika stopped walking. When we saw what she was looking at, the rest of us also stopped.
ああ、あちらは黄金の魔女、ベアトリーチェ様でございますよ。
This is the Golden Witch Beatrice-sama.
黄金の
The Golden
魔女。
Witch.
何やってんだガキども。
What you doing,
さっ
Brad?
さとゲストハウスへ引き上げるぞ。
Go on, head back to the guest house. Dad, Curious-san, Aunt Ava, Uncle Hideyoshi, and Aunt Rosa all came over. The entire guest house party had gathered. However, Erika's gaze was captured by the portrait of the witch, and she simply stared at it for a while. Bernkastel just casually controlling which rooms she goes to make sure she's hitting all the right beats. Yeah.
親父は200億相当の黄金を隠し持っていて。
Supposedly, Dad has a stash of hidden gold worth 20 billion yen. This is in the guest house. At night, this is the front room, right?
その隠し場所をあの碑文に記したって言われてる。
Yeah, and this epitaph shows you where that gold's hidden. Perhaps it was too early for them all to disperse into their individual rooms because the relatives who had returned to the guest house all gathered on the first floor continuing their chat. The topic was the witch's epitaph, which Erika had taken an interest in.
魅力的な謎ですね。
Really is a
誰
fascinating
にで
riddle.
も見られるところに堂々と張り出し、私たちの知恵に挑戦する。
We stuck it in a place where anyone could see it, challenging our intelligence.
そういう挑戦、大好きです。
I love that kind of challenge.
ひゅー。
Whoa.
エリカちゃんは案外ノリがいいな。
You seem surprisingly interested, Erika-chan.
謎解きとか好きなのか？
No one questions that their new guest has a super similar name to an anime character from a show that Mario watches. Yeah, but none of them live with Mario. They don't know the names of the characters from Mario's show. Like maybe Rosa knows, but nobody else does. And Rosa, as we know, actively avoids Mario, so I don't know if Rosa knows. You like solving riddles or something?
面白そうじゃないですか。
Challenges like this seem interesting. You're like, wow, I can see what you're trying to do. Paddler's favorite story is Higurashi. I forgot that I forgot that he likes Higurashi. And Mario watches it. How did they not notice her name is straight out of Higurashi? I forgot that in universe they like Higurashi. I forgot that. How did they not notice it? It's like, wow, your name's really close to a character from Higurashi. Like it's pronounced very similar. Maybe Lambda forgot to make them comment on it? Maybe. Seems pretty clear.
多分金蔵さんはあの碑文によって跡継ぎを選ぼうというつもりに違いありませんね。
Kinzo-san wants to use the epitaph to choose his successor. When she said that, the adults stopped moving and slowly turned to face Erika.
どうして
Why do you think that? Aunt Ava spoke with a coaxing voice. She's like, oh, is this what the plan's suggestion is? Though every now and then there'd been some whispering among the relatives that whoever solved the epitaph's riddle might be given the family inheritance, this had been no more than wishful thinking since such a thing had never been specifically stated, and yet, though she'd only read it once, the outsider had already reached that conclusion. How had she come to it? No, that's not the problem. If you solve the epitaph, you become the next head. She wasn't trying to make it sound like wishful thinking, but an outright fact. So they closed in around Erika asking why she was so sure. The adults suddenly interested.
大富豪が謎を解いたものに富を譲るというのは割とよくあるシチュエーション
She's like, oh, it's common for rich people to relinquish their wealth to the solver of some riddle. Oh yeah, it just happens all the time.
そしてご当主の金蔵さんはその碑文を新聞に載せたのではなく
Furthermore, Kinzo didn't publish his epitaph in a
お屋
newspaper,
敷の中に掲示しました
but displayed it in his mansion.
つまりこのお屋敷の人間を対象にした謎だ
Did.
ということです
It means the riddle's directed at people in this mansion.
そうだよな。
Right.
この屋敷の中である以上、この屋敷に出入りできない者には解きようがない。
Since it's inside the mansion, there's no way for anyone who can't enter the mansion to solve it. Yep, that seems fair.
つまり、この屋敷の人間にじい様は挑戦してきたってわけ。
That means grandfather's been challenging the people here.
グッド
Good, good.
良い思考です
Well thought.
あの碑文が屋敷内にあったという一時からでもその程度のことを読み取ることが可能です
Just by the simple fact the epitaph's inside the mansion, it's possible to figure out that much. At first, this Furudo Erika girl seemed to be the fairly silent type, but that apparently wasn't the case. She needs to deliver exposition to get people to do what she wants them to in this game. As she grew excited by a challenge to a game of wits, she became much more talkative than I imagined.
なるほどな。
I see.
屋敷の中に碑文があるんは、屋敷の人間に読ませるためってのは確かに道理や。
It does make sense, and an epitaph inside a mansion would be there so people inside the mansion could read it.
でも家督を譲る相手までも選ぶというのは
Can you be sure the one who solves it will be given the headship too?
この謎を解いて得られる宝がほんのささやかなものでしかないなら
The treasure gained by solving the riddle were something small.
私もそこまでは思いません
I wouldn't have considered that.
そうよね
That's right.
隠された黄金の価値は200
The
億
hidden gold is worth 20 billion.
それはまさに後宮家の財産そのものだわ
You might consider that gold itself to be the wealth of the Yashiromiya family.
それを受け継ぐということは後宮家を引き継ぐことと限りなく同じ意味で
Inheriting
す
something like that would be almost the same as inheriting the family itself. That's a good thought. That is a fuck ton of money to be giving out.
つまり碑文に込めた黄金の隠し場所という謎は後宮家の実質的な後継者選びに他ならないということ
In other
で
words,
す
this riddle of the gold's hiding place, buried within the epitaph, is nothing less than a way of selecting the de facto successor of the Shiromiya family. The idea the one who solved the epitaph will be chosen as the successor had been passed around by some of the relatives for a while now. However, since it had never been specifically announced, it was nothing more than an optimistic dream. Meanwhile, Kinzo telling the fucking furniture to go fucking find it because they get the headship if they find it, and they're like, nah, I'll pass. I'm furniture. I'm a very elaborate desk. I am a meat desk. Perhaps a stool? Anyway, however, since it's never been specifically announced it was nothing more than an optimistic dream, thinking this, they decided to abandon consideration at this point until details were made clear. Erika had clearly declared this uncertain point was in fact true. If one of the relatives said it, people would have thought it to be merely an optimistic dream. However, when this was declared by a complete outsider, those words seemed more credible. Everyone remained silent for a while, slowly considering what those words implied.
ただ碑文がそこに存在するだけで
Simply by the existence of the epitaph in that
フルドエ
place.
リカはこの程度の推理が可能です。
This level of reasoning is possible for Furudo, Erika. Yes, 20 billion yen is a lot, but it is not an unbelievable amount.
いかがでしょうか、
What do
皆
you think,
様
everyone?
方。
Yeah. You gotta subtract a few digits from the yen, moving you into the 100 million ranges as you usually. It's like divide by 100-ish for Canadian dollars, and it's a bit less for you in American dollar. Obviously, it's lower for American. 150 million seems about right. You want to see Bernkastel explain why her character's like this? She's just having some fun. I believe she's here to push the plot along and delivering exposition. She's basically like, I will take an interest. Bernkastel's logic is like, I will take an interest in the Wish's epitaph because I want some idiots to solve it and to get moving on something useful instead of discussing the inheritance every single day. She's basically just like doing this to manipulate everybody or to push them in the direction she wants them to go. Like, she's having a little bit of fun, but she's basically like, I want the perfect, cute princess, and I'm gonna have her, like, deliver exposition and push people to do what I want them to. What do you think, everyone?
横やりで申し訳ねえけどさ、
Sorry to butt in.
一応はうちの父さんが次期当主なわけだぜ。
My dad's the successor? Oh, is he?
隠し黄金を誰が見つける云々はともかくよ。
Finding the gold would be one thing.
見つけたら当主ってのは、
That doesn't
そ
mean
う
you
いう
gotta
こ
be
とにはならねえんじゃねえかよ。
Jessica thought the treasure hunting part of the epitaph was really fun. However, she couldn't help but let her expression grow bitter once they started talking about undermining her father's position.
私の推理から演繹する限り
By using deductive reasoning based on my theory. I'm gonna rephrase that for you, Furudo. By using some sketchy deductive reasoning based on ass pulls and your future sense / past
金蔵
sense.
さんは次期当主のクラウスさんに円滑な当主継承を望んでいないと考えら
It
れま
seems
す。
likely Kinzo-san doesn't want the successor Kraus-san to inherit the position too smoothly.
どうしてだよ。
Is that?
莫大な財産を持つ後ろ宮家の当主なら政治的な意味で様々な影響力を持つことになるでしょう。
Becoming head of the Shiromiya family with all the vast wealth it entails would mean gaining a great deal of influence in a political sense. And this is 1986 money, right? It's 150 million 1986 money. It might actually be even higher than that.
ならば本来その継承は厳格であり一切の紛れが入るべきではありません。
Succession should be overseen rigorously without letting any element of chance creep into the equation.
そうね。
Actually, what was the currency like in 1986? Historically, I'm curious. Dollar-yen exchange rate. We're in like 1986 October. It's actually pretty close to what it was. It's at the 150 mark. And right now it's like 138. Yeah. Interesting. Alright. That was easy to check. For the US dollar. Alright. That's alright.
うちの人の好きな戦国武将の話でもよくあるわ。
It happens a lot in these stories about Sengoku military commanders that my husband loves. Ava's supportive of this because it gives her a chance to go for the headship
後継
again.
ぎ候補が複数いたりすると、大抵お家騒動の火種になる。
When there are multiple candidates for the successor, it usually results in an internal squabble.
そやな。
That's
だ
right.
からトラブルを未然に防ぐためにしっかりと後継者を指名し
That's
て
why
お
it's
くのが
important to
大切
clearly
なんや。
specify a successor so you can avoid any
時
trouble.
には競合する後継者を粛清することさえあるんやで。
Sometimes there's even a purge. Sometimes there's even a purge of all competing successors. The Sengoku commander Hideyoshi admired Totoyomi Hideyoshi, made his son-in-law Hidetsugu commit seppuku. But it was rumored that he might have done this to make Hideyori, who was his real son and born after Hidetsugu, the true heir. In other words, naming successor was a way to make it generally known that a single unique person would be acknowledged by everyone. US dollars were at an all-time high. You were planning a trip and everyone started getting sick again. Current events. Current events. Fun times. Yeah, I don't know about traveling in this.
Good.
Yes. Acknowledge everyone. A way to remove any chance of another person becoming an opposing candidate. Yep. Good, good, good.
まさにその通りです。
That's exactly
あ
right.
のような非分の存在はクラウスさんの次期当主の肩書きを危ぶませる意味しかありません。
Hideyoshi talking about purging competitors, probably making everyone in the room sweat super hard because his name is Hideyoshi, by the way. Can you imagine? It's like, ah, yes, Hideyoshi used to purge any potential competitors, and they're like, purges, you're saying? Isn't your name Hideyoshi? It's like the man he admires greatly, and they're like, oh dear God. Oh, it's like when the murders start happening, they're gonna be like, oh dear God, please, why? Is it Hideyoshi? Hideyoshi reenacting his idol's dream? That's exactly right. The only purpose for an epitaph like that would be to cast doubt on Kraus's position as the
つ
successor.
まり金蔵さんがクラウスさんに当主を円満に継承させたいと願うなら、あのような危険なものをわざわざ人目にさらす理由がないわけです。
In other words, if Kinzo wanted Kraus-san to become head smoothly, he'd have no reason to go out of his way and display something so dangerous for all to see.
そうね。チェス盤をひっくり返せば確かにそう言える。
If you spin the chessboard around, you certainly could
当
say
主
that.
は継承するけれども、200億の黄金は譲らない。解けた誰かに譲るというのはおかしな話だわ。
It would be unusual if he handed over the position of the head normally, but only handed over the 20 billion yen in gold to the person who solves the riddle. Kinzo would pass the title of family head, but he'd only give up the 20 billion yen to the person who solves the epitaph? You couldn't really call his passing headship in the truest sense.
そういうことです。
And that's
以
how it
上
is.
の推理により、金蔵さんがクラウスさんを本当に後継者だと認めていたか
By this
怪し
theory,
むことができるわけです。
by this theory, we're able to cast doubt on whether Kinzo-san truly acknowledged Kraus-san as the
た
successor,
だ非分がそこに存在するだけで、
simply by the existence of the epitaph in that
ク
place.
ルドエリカはこの程度の推理が可能です。
This level of reasoning is possible for Furudo, Erika. I keep wanting to read as Furudo, Erika, but oh my goodness. They're doing this on purpose to me.
いかがでしょうか、ジェシカ
Oh,
さ
she has
ん。
another angle too. Alright. What do you think, Jessica-san?
なんだよそれ。
Poor Jessica can't keep up with the elegance.
何が推理だ。
How do you call that reasoning? It's pretty bullshit, I
デ
agree.
タラメだ。こじつけだ。
Yes, it's screwed up. Jessica let her emotions lay bare and glare to Erika. It might be a way to split the inheritance to someone who is worthy but not the firstborn. That would be another way to read this, right? That's probably how I'd be like, okay, well, what if he's thinking he wants multiple he wants to give headship to Kraus, but he wants other people to receive something, but only if they're worthy, right? Like, imagine that. That would be another way. That would be like a way to justify that without being like, fuck Kraus, he's not getting shit. Anyway, Jessica lets her emotions bare and glares at Erika. Classic Jessica move. Erika, on the other hand, looked exceedingly calm with an expression that said, well, it's just the truth, isn't it? I see. It looks like table manners aren't the only way this girl is fitting for the Ishiromiya family. It seems she really does match the family, even when it'd be better if she didn't.
まあまあ、
Hello.
落ち着けよ、ジェシカ。
Take it easy, Jessica. Jessica, are you sure you're not the one who was adopted?
エリカもそれくらいにしろって。
And Erika, let's leave it at that for now.
まあその後継者云々の話は置いといてもやな。
Well, we can put all the successor stuff to the
い
side
ず
for
れ
now.
にせよ、お父さんからのビッグクエスチョンやというのは
Anyway, there's no doubt it's father's big question for us.
200億やで。
20 billion yen.
マリアちゃん、もし見つけたら何に使う？
Maria-chan, what'd you use it for if you found it?
おお、黄金鏡は黄金だけじゃない。
Golden land isn't just
もっ
gold.
と神聖な場所
It's
な
a
の。
sacred place. Uncle Hideyoshi kept trying to force himself to chuckle and improve the mood. Everyone else tried to play along, but Jessica's mood didn't get better.
エリカちゃんも碑文の謎に挑戦してみたくなったのかい？
So, Erika-chan, would you like to have a go with the epitaph's riddle?
はい。灰色の脳細胞がうずきまくりです。
My gray cells are itching to
で
get
す
started.
ので、謎解きを早
I'd like
速
to
始
start
めたい
solving
と
as
思い
soon
ま
as
す。
possible. George Aniki smoothly turned the conversation around, and just like the time she made everyone laugh in the dining hall, Erika looked about with gleeful eyes and jumped at the chance.
気に入った
I
わ。
like it.
せっかくエリカちゃんが面白がってくれてるんだし。
Well, since Erika seems so
ま
interested,
た去年みたいにみんなで謎解きをしてみましょう
let's all
よ。
try and solve it together, just like last year.
私コーヒー入れるわ。
I'll make some
欲
coffee.
しい人は手を挙げて。
Raise your hand if you want some.
マリアはダメよ。
Not for you,
眠れ
Mario.
なくなっちゃうでしょう。
You won't be able to sleep. It's too relatable.
マリアもブラック飲む。
I'm gonna drink black coffee. Isn't it like super late at night? What? Mario's like, I'll take my coffee black. Alright.
ワクワクしません？
Don't they get you excited? Riddles like this?
私は大好きです。
I love them. Erika said that and smiled. Though she must have known she ticked Jessica off and made the atmosphere sour, she just smiled nonchalantly. She's not a peacemaker, she's just self-centered and elegant.
別に10月5日の事件を待たなくても解ける謎はあるってわけ。
Catch you later, my dude. See, even without waiting for the crime on October 5th, there's a riddle you can solve.
そりゃ、俺も何度か
I tried to solve it many times myself, but
でもさっぱりわからなかったから投げ出して考えるのをやめ
you
た。
didn't have a clue, so you gave up and stopped
でしょ。
thinking. Right? It pissed me off, but I don't have a good counter for that. After all, I don't get the epitaph at all. I don't even know what the beloved hometown means, much less the parts about the Sweetfish River and the key. Wait. He was literally hanging... He was hanging out for the previous... Okay, Battler was paying attention for round 3, right? When Ava solved the riddle? Surely he should either A, know the answer to the riddle because he's Meta Battler and she solved the riddle, or B, at least know the part they can agreed upon about the Sweetfish, about some parts of it, right? Surely. Thinking that a few more hints would show up if I waited, I kept on waiting and stopped thinking.
あなたなりの答えは準備できてる？
If you figured out an answer of your own.
私が今から解いちゃうから。
How hard is Battler throwing this game? I don't know if Battler is throwing this game. I mean, he's basically doing nothing, but Bernkastel is carrying him. So by throwing, he's doing nothing, effectively. Oh, he's asked her not to propose any blue truths, because blue truths would hurt Beato's feelings. Her poor Fifis. But I would say, apart from the start of the game where he was arguing with Bernkastel and wanted to just AFK, that was a pretty hard throw. And him arguing that he didn't think that any events the person running the game was showing them from before 1986 had any relevance in the game or could be argued, that was a pretty big throw. But since he's gotten into the game, he's shutting the fuck up and not actively thrown the game. But I mean, it's just a matter of time before he goes back to throwing. I mean, he effectively started the game and he's like, dude, it doesn't matter what happens at the start of the game. It doesn't matter if I die in the first 2 minutes. Dies to like tower. You know, he's playing League, dies to tower in the first 2 minutes, and you're like, are you fucking stupid? Like, what are you doing, you moron? He's like, it doesn't matter in the first 2 minutes. The gold's not high enough. Gold bounty's not big enough. I haven't gotten any kills yet. It doesn't matter. You love how Player Battler and Bernkastel are on different sides from Peace Battler and Erika. Doesn't matter now. I'll snowball late game. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'll snowball late game, guys. Except he's not even saying he'll snowball late game. He's just like, it doesn't fucking matter. He's just saying it doesn't matter, right? That's the usual excuse if you carry, or if you're claiming to carry the game, you're like, doesn't matter, but he's not even claiming to carry, he's just saying it doesn't matter if he throws early on. And he wants them to, like, not go as hard on their opponents. Like, he's... Imagine playing a 2v2 and being like, we're playing a competitive 2v2 where if I lose, I fucking die. And he's like, don't go too hard on our opponent, okay? Their feelings might get hurt. And you're like, you're literally playing a game to the death, and you're concerned about hurting their feelings or physically injuring them. Like, what? What? If anything, you should be like, can I break the rules to get through this shit? Not, how can I play as nicely as humanly possible? Oh, well. Just be like, no, don't take that tower. Listen, we need to stay even on towers with them. But why? We need to stay even on towers with them. We don't want them to complain. We don't want them to be mad. It's like, what? It's like, come on, guys. We don't want them to quit. Well, they can't quit. They're literally shackled to the table. No. I don't want to hurt their feelings too badly. We can't win in a landslide. We gotta keep it even. Seriously? Yep, we can't gold diff them. Really? Alright, my dude. Alright, my dude. Alright, have you figured out an answer of your own? Because I'm about to solve it. No. What? Bernkastel, using her superior intellect to solve everything. Like a sledgehammer. Like a sledgehammer. This is where Bernkastel solved the riddle of the epitaph. Sasuga, Witch of Miracles. Indeed, I expect no less from her. If a riddle is solvable, she can solve it without fail, regardless of difficulty. How many years did it take to solve this one? That's rude. I only fished through a few hundred fragments. Really are terrifying. Bernkastel's just like, oh, I only had to iterate through this 100 times to find it. No big deal. You aren't gonna cheat by suddenly saying the answer in red or something like that, right? Fish through a few hundred fragments, read 2 years of internet theories. I don't know, can Bernkastel look into the future like that? She might, honestly. She went 12 years into the future. Why not? Why not? Don't worry. Like you, I follow the rules as a player. Shall we begin? It's somewhat cramped in here. Why don't we talk over the sea? Okay. Don't get queasy, Battler. What do you mean the sea? What do you mean the sea? She can go to any possible fragment, including future fragments? Interesting. I thought the whole world had turned pitch black, and the next moment, I was struck by a strange floating sensation. This must be what it feels like to suddenly have the floor drop from under you, sending you into a bottomless pit. Ocean? On the ocean? When I looked, I saw the two witches and I had been thrown into a pitch-black universe. In this space, every direction was covered in an endless darkness, and it felt like a limitless expanse filled with countless glittering objects. Some people might have likened it to the depths of an ocean where innumerable sparkling fragments drifted. Yeah, just go to another fragment where Ava solves it and look over her shoulder the whole time. Seems way easier. This isn't the sea. Didn't she tell you not to get queasy? You want the concept of gravity, just create it yourself, right? Come on, calm down and look at us. Don't we look like we're fine?
足元に大地があって重力に支配されていると信じなさい。
Believe your feet are on the ground and you're being controlled by
そう
gravity.
すれば安定できるから。
If you do that, you'll find your equilibrium. Literally use the... We're in the sea of fragments. We've been here. Yeah. Higurashi 7 and 8. Yeah, for sure. All you have to do is believe. Come on. Just believe. The power of imagination is at your fingertips, Battler. You could create a chair if you wanted one out of here, I bet. Yes, the two witches are standing normally as if their feet were planted on transparent pieces of glass. I'm the only one floating about like someone in a rapidly plummeting elevator. When I saw they were doing fine, I just calmed down, figuring there's no need to be scared. And as Lambda Delta said, I gritted my teeth and told myself there was a place to stand here and that I had to stay calm.
お上手お上手。
Very good, very good.
あんたの名前は？
What's your name?
後ろ宮バトラー。
Shiromia Battler.
他の誰に見えるよ。
Who else do I look like?
オッケー。自分の意志、感情、姿や形を決して喪失してはダメよ。
Mustn't lose your will. Emotions are
ここ
formed.
は海なんだからね。
After all, this is the ocean. Ah, this is the ocean they mentioned. This is the Traveler's Ocean they mentioned in the tips, right? Or the Voyager's Ocean? Where if you lose yourself, you'll just like be scattered to the winds. All right.
意味を喪失すれば永遠の深淵に落ちて海の藻図よ。
Yep. If you lose your purpose, you'll fall into the depths of eternity and become a scrap of ocean
気
seaweed.
をつけなさい。
Be careful. I don't get what Lambda's saying, but I should calm down for the time being. He feels like he's falling, and yet they're not moving from his perspective in front of him. I mean, it's more like I don't know. They might be manipulating their like. There's not necessarily a correlation for space, right? Like, is there physical distance in this realm? Because they could have just like they could in their heads be conceptually near him, right? So conceptually, they're like, we're gonna stand near. In their heads, because it's like realm of imagination, they're like, we're standing 5 feet away from Battler on solid ground. And Battler's like, I'm falling. So they're perpetually just stuck standing there while he's falling, if you can imagine it, right? So like, if you imagine it, their status is always on ground and his status is falling. But since they're saying that their relative positions are like right beside Battler, to him, it looks like they're always beside him. So, like, he sees them as falling with him for a brief second until he realizes that their hair's not moving. The hair's not moving, they're not flailing about wildly, and they're basically standing there. And then he's like, oh, wait. Like, because he's only feels like he's falling because he thinks he's falling, right? Or he thinks he's floating because there's no down. He doesn't know where down is. He doesn't know where down is, so he thinks he's falling, but he's not sure what direction, so he just kind of sees the direction and picks it at random, based on, like, what it looks like in the void. I think it's the feeling is falling, right? Because the feeling of falling, if there's no gravity, you can't fall, so the feeling of falling is also manufactured. Although it might be, like, messing... I don't know what it feels like to be in low or like, no gravity. Low gravity. For like your internal ear, maybe it's messing him up and making him feel like he's falling. It seems that I regain my equilibrium the more I calm down. Gradually, the weird floating feeling like I was falling forever began disappearing. It still felt strange, like trying to stand up straight at the bottom of a deep pool, but it was better than before.
では始めるわ。
Then let's begin.
自分の謎を解くためのかけらを紡ぐ。
I'll weave together some fragments for solving the riddle of the epitaph. Bernkastel opened both her hands, and then like a planetarium, all the fragments throughout this empty space began to spin, leaving trails behind them. The expression planetarium might have been surprisingly fitting. Multiple fragments were tied together by gold lines, and looked like constellations zoomed by rapidly, one after another. It felt almost as though we were dashing through space at an incredible speed. Then, with tails of light drifting behind them, several brightly glowing fragments swirled around Bernkastel. It looked as though she'd created her own solar system with her as the sun. That solar system surrounding Bernkastel grew to a radius large enough to swallow us up. And every once in a while, one of those satellite fragments zoomed right past me. Wait, what was that last one where they were all posing together? When those fragments passed by me, it felt as though some kind of memory welled up inside me, so I sensed it. They're probably like a crystallization of memories. They aren't memories. They're fragments of worlds. They might feel like memories to you. Let's begin. Start with this fragment. Ah, she's doing the ordering for us. Thanks. One of the satellites in this solar system was slowly sucked into an inward trajectory with Bernkastel as the center. After drawing a spiral and approaching her, it settled down on the palm of Bernkastel's outstretched hand. There, it glittered brightly, painting over the world with pure white. We've done this. The beloved hometown definitely won't betray our expectations. So it's reiterating it, and Ava's saying something. The only past Father held dear happened during his childhood years. Okay. I remember that. Yep, young Ava. Which Ava before she became Which Ava before she got her powers. This is from the third game when Aunt Ava was just about to solve the riddle of the epitaph and was thinking it over with this witch inside her or whatever. Right? And from these thoughts, she made her way to the correct answer. In other words, this fragment shows a vital hint for reaching the truth. It means this theory is not mistaken. You're saying we should assume this beloved hometown isn't a metaphor or anything? But the place he actually spent his youth? Right. At the very least, it isn't Odawara. Odawara is where he was born. But I don't think that's the hometown he loved. I imagine all his siblings have the same place in mind. Right. This probably isn't Odawara. From what I heard, he had a fun time as a youth. That's right. Ava and her siblings said it wasn't Odawara. He liked eating those nuts, right? Could it be, I think they were... Where was that? Was that Singapore? The Philippines? I don't remember. Could it be the capital of that country? That's a possibility. I don't know which country it is, so I'm just gonna be like, whatever country they were visiting that they mentioned that. Aunt Ava and her siblings said it wasn't Odawara. Not only that, it looked like everyone guessed where grandfather's hometown was. I don't know enough about most Japanese cities to know if there's like a major non-Japanese Asian ethnicity in one of the other cities in the states of Japan. That would probably be some useful trivia to know. Right. Annoyingly, the actual location isn't spoken of in any of the fragments. Well, duh. I told you that, there'd be too many hints. If it wasn't a hard riddle, there'd be no point to it. Uh-oh. That's a hint too. Where is the hometown of grandfathers? We can't even start if we don't know that.
始まらないから思考を停止したわけ？
You mean, you couldn't start, so you stopped
住み
thinking?
得た場所である以上、それは有限の範囲内だわ。
It has to be a place where he could have lived. The number of possibilities are limited.
まあ、ここが一番辛いところなんだけれど。
お前は確か、解ける謎である限り、絶対に解ける魔女だったな。
You were the witch who could certainly solve any riddle that could be solved, weren't you?
つまりお前は、その有限の範囲内。
You took those limited
つまり地
possibilities.
球上のすべてから、じいさまの住んでそうな土地をすべて想定して考えたのか。
In other words, everyone on the earth and considered every piece of land grandfather might have lived on?
そうしてもいいけれど、それじゃあ時間がいくらあっても足りないわ。
That would work too, but that way no amount of time would be
だか
enough.
らさらにヒントを加味して答えを絞る必要があった。
I needed to take some more hints into consideration to bring out the answer.
自分で言ったじゃない。
Didn't you say it
水
yourself?
の流れる川かどうかわからない
You said it didn't have to be a river with water
あゆ
flowing
と
down.
いう言葉がそんなにもややこしいなら忘れてしまえば。
The word sweet fish is too complicated. Why not forget it?
川で考えるの。
Think of a river.
川で。
A river.
家系図という連想は悪くないわ。
Linking it with the family tree wasn't a bad
その
idea.
要領で川から連想するものを他にも考えてみて。
Try thinking about how to link a river with something else along those lines.
故郷を貫くアユの川。
A sweetfish river runs through the
しか
hometown.
しその川は本当の意味で
The
の川
river
では
isn't truly a river. It could be any number of things. Be highway. Could be a rail line. Could be a popular shipping line. Although I don't know if that makes sense. If it's a harbor town, that might work.
エヴァは川から連想できる他のものを考えたわ。
Ava thought of something else, something that could be linked with a river.
そうだな。
Sure.
しかし、川じゃないなら。
Not a river, then why
Ayu.
sweet fish? Could be the cars. Could be the trucks. Cars and trucks, perhaps? Or it could be boats?
考えなさい。
Think.
故郷を貫く川。
A river that runs through the
でも
hometown.
水の流れる川じゃないわ。
But it isn't a river with water
川
running
の
down.
ようにも例えられるもの。
Something that can be likened to a river. A highway.
懐かしき。故郷を
sweet fish
貫くアユの川。
Running through the beloved hometown.
エヴァは故郷がどこか分かってたから、アユというヒントを切り捨てて考えたけど、
Ava knew what the hometown was, so she could forget about the sweet fish
故
hint.
郷を知らない私たちにはヒントになりうるかもしれないわ。
However, since we don't know where it is, it could be a hint for us. Yep.
アユの川に悩みすぎたわ。
I worried too much about the sweet fish
ア
river.
ユなんて大した意味ないじゃない。
Sweet fish part didn't matter at all, did it?
そんなことないわよ。
Isn't
立
true.
派なヒントだったじゃな
That's
い。
an excellent hint, wasn't it?
まあ確かにアユである必要はなかったかもね。
Maybe there was no need for it to be a sweet fish.
ああ言って
What are
ん
these
なんだ。
sweet fish?
川が言葉通りの川でない以上、アユだってもちろん泳ぐ魚を意味したりはしないはずだ。
If the river isn't a literal river, of course sweet fish doesn't mean the kind of fish that swim. Yep, yep.
そうね。
Right.
その上ローザに至っては、アユに大した意味はないとまで言い捨
And
て
on
てる
top of
わ。
that, Rosa tossed it aside, saying the sweet fish weren't that significant.
その一方でエヴァはアユである必要はないが立派なヒントだったとも言ってい
On
る。
the other hand, Ava said it wasn't important for them to be sweet fish, but that it was an excellent hint.
つまりアユは
In other words,
何かを想起させる
it's a key.
鍵だということ。
make you think of something else. For mirror solutions, the hometown was the hometown was the easy part. You solved that when they discussed it in episode 3, but only solved the rest by the end of episode 6. Really? You found the hometown that easily? Cool. Alright. Sweet fish is the key to make you think of something else. Okay.
その何か
What is
が
it?
他の単語であっても想起できるなら
If that something
エヴァ
is a
の言う
different word,
愛
but a
である
word that
必要はな
Sweetfish
い
makes
が
you
という言葉につながってくる
think of, then Ava's line about how it probably didn't have to be Sweetfish makes sense. It could be any number of things that carry something. From these thoughts, Aunt Ava formed some theory, went to the library, looked through some books, verified she was right. In short, Aunt Ava formed some theory about the true nature of this Sweetfish River running through a hometown. Opened a book to determine whether the theory was correct or not. In other words, this theory was something that could be verified through some kind of book. Also, after she figured out what the Sweetfish River was, she figured out the rest of the riddle quickly.
良い思考よ
Good
気分
thinking.
は川を下ればやがて里ありと続く
The epitaph continues on, saying, as you travel down the river, you'll see a village.
エヴァはその時点ではそこから始まる産業の謎を解けてはいなかった
At that point in time, Ava hadn't yet solved the 3 lines starting with this one. What is this village?
里ってどういう意味
What does it mean?
この川を下ると
You
里なん
find
てあ
one
る
if you go
の
down the river? Right before my eyes, the pieces I hadn't been able to understand at all began to snap into place all by themselves. Yep. I couldn't even remember to close my open mouth. My throat grew completely dry. Is it really okay for this to be the answer? Presumably yes. Really? 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 Yep.
つまり
So,
故郷を貫く鮎の川が分かれば
if we figure out what the Sweetfish River running through the hometown is, it leads
川
us
を下
directly
れ
to
ば里あ
understanding
り
the
云々が分かって
as
黄金
you
鏡の鍵が
travel
手
down
に
the
入
river,
る
you
って
see a village stuff, and then we get the key of the Golden Land.
そういうことよ
Correct.
エヴァもその書物を読んで確かめるまでは川を下った里のことは
And we know that
分か
because
らなかったみたい
even
です
Ava didn't know what the village meant until she checked the book.
くそ
Damn it.
その書物って何なんだ
What is this book?
でもこれは全然6文字じゃないわ
But this isn't 6 characters
こ
at
れ
all.
が答えに間違いないって断言できるけど
I'm sure it's the
これ
answer.
は全然
But it
6
doesn't
文字
reach
に満
6
たない
characters at all.
また思考停止
Did you stop thinking
なら
again?
それを6文字で読める方法を考えなさい
In that case, think of a way you could read it with 6 characters.
思いつかないなら調べなさ
If you can't think of one, research
いき
it.
っと答えはある
There has to be an answer.
それを疑ってはダメ
Don't doubt it.
それが信じられないならとっとと泣き寝入りでもしてへそでもかんで死んじゃえ
Believing in that too much for you?
ば
If only you just cry yourself to sleep and then you can go up and die.
1
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh,
6文字
6 characters. I found it. This
黄金鏡への鍵
key to the Golden Land. It'd be nice if there was just like a nice, easy city that had the character for gold in it in Japanese. That's near our coast.
そ
That'd
して
be nice.
エヴァは黄金鏡への鍵を見つけたわ
But then Ava found the key to the Golden Land.
ああ
Yep.
そしてその鍵
And this
6文
key
字の
was some
何
kind of word, number, or string of characters,
言葉
6
か数
characters
字か
long.
文字列なんだ
そういうこと
That's it. Yep.
鍵の正体が6つの文字だと分かれば第
If
一
we
の
know the
番の
key's
意味
true
は
identity
だいぶ
has
分
6
かる
characters, the meaning of the first Twilight changes drastically. On the first Twilight, offer 6.
鍵の選び師
Chosen by the key is
生
sacrifices.
贄鍵の選び師6人
6 chosen by the key. 6
6文字
characters. Yeah, you're saying Roof 6. However, 6 people get murdered at random, so are the characters also random every time? Meaning there's this location changes? In other words, it means to sacrifice the 6 characters chosen by the key on the first Twilight.
この鍵がある特定の6
This
人を
indicates
指
a
し
certain group
い
of
え
6 people. We
あ
could
る
say it
特定
indicates a
の
certain
6
group of
つを
6
指し
things.
示すともしこれが
If this doesn't
文字
mean
通りに
a literal
生
command
贄
to
を
offer
捧げろという
sacrifices.
意味でないならば
Didn't we go over this in the third arc? Like, verbatim? These aren't new sections. This is just the third arc repeated
例えば
again.
アナグラムかもしれないわ
It could be an anagram.
アナグラム
An anagram.
文字遊びのことかね
What do you mean? Do you mean playing with letters? Yep. They like repeating their stuff, at least within a new arc, though. Kirei-san had been thinking that way ever since that moment.
第二の番に残されし者はとある。
In the second Twilight, there are those who remain.
ということは、少なくともその何かは有限の
Something
文字
has
数
a limited number of characters.
そこから6文字を抜いて残った文字で話を進
Read
め
it
ろ
like
と
it's
読
telling you
み
to
解
continue
け
with the
る。
remaining characters after the first 6 characters are removed. 6 characters,
つまり
too.
第一の番に6文字以上の文字列から
In other words, we tell the first Twilight we take a list of characters that's that's longer than
鍵
6.
である6文字を
Kill 6
殺
out
し
of the key. Uh-huh.
残った文字で
Do
どうに
something
か
with the
しろと
characters
い
that
う意味なん
remain.
だ。
Me sitting here thinking, like, I can't even think of, like... It's like, I can't even think of, like, a city that... I can't even think of a city in the area that has more than 6 characters. That would actually have any meaningful number of characters left over to make a word.
そういうこと。
That's
ただ
right.
当時の切り絵も言って
Like
る。
Kyria said. What did we kill the
その
characters
殺
from?
す大
We
元
don't
の
know
文
this
字列
longer
が
string of
わ
characters
か
we're
ら
supposed to
ない
be killing from. On the first Twilight, kill the 6 characters that are the key on the first Twilight.
つまり第一の番という時点でもう
By the time we reach the first Twilight, some string of characters will already exist.
しかし第一の番じゃ
Might be a set of Japanese
他の読み方
characters. Knowing grandfather's taste, could it be something in
じい
English?
さま風に英語で読むなら
The first Twilight
第
has
一の
more
番
than 6
ファー
characters.
ストナイトは
Even though the Japanese phrase has 4. Yep.
グッド。バトラさんのその考え、なかなかです。
The idea of yours isn't bad, Battler-san. Well, it looks like they're making progress. I'm kind of still lost where they're at since the concept of the location is still kind of lost to me. But whatever. I think we're gonna have to find out this one and how much more progress we make on this riddle next time.